Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final episode of the 2024 Power Spike season. It is your boy dGon alongside Dom, Yamato, and Monty with the quad box for the final time, as it has been a little bit of time since the final competitive match in the LoL Esports calendar was played, but T1 yet again, just like we all knew, and every single fan knew it was going to be.
In our hearts, we knew.
Came and saw and won, becoming the first back-to-back champions. The longest-standing roster in LoL Esports at the highest level. History has done it, much to the happiness of all the fans that love Fast and Furious, because that's what I realized. That's what this roster is. It's just Fast and the Furious. You like family. You like a leader that shows up all the time. Sometimes he has some troubles in the middle of the movie, but at the end, they're all together, protecting each other, even with a little bit of bloodshed. Say he's bonking his head with the trophy. They still are there for everyone. Before we dive into that World Championship, it has been a little bit of time. Dom was on vacation. How was your vacation, Dom?
It was good. It was good to separate myself from the mental illness, and now I'm ready to just get right back in it. Like today, hopefully we can generate some really mentally ill comments under Power Spike, as per usual. So let's do it, boys. Let's be mentally ill. Let's make this place as horrible as possible for all of us, as you guys always do. So great. Let's get it. I'm ready. I'm so refreshed, bro. I am going to tear down this community piece by piece for the next year. All I need is one week, and I recharge my hatred for the rest of the 51.
It's a good start. Monty, how are you?
Good. I've been basking in the glory of the hatred. While Dom was away, it was redirected entirely at me by the fans, even though I was saying very complimentary things on shows about Faker. Apparently, I am a heretic against the god Faker, and I must be burned.
I hope not.
Perfect.
And then Yamato, you got to, I guess, stay away from a lot of this hate, and also did an interview with AI.domcam.exe or whatever it was,
that was great.
Earlier.
That
With
was
Whippo.
Well, it's crazy because for me, I thought it would just be a funny joke. I thought people would like realize instantly, it was like a reference to something that Dom said too, but it just caused like mass confusion. So it's like I'm never like my creative faculties are gonna be not used to set up shows. So there's that because. People just made the craziest theories like Dom just hates Whippo. That's why he doesn't say anything. He just hates him because of the fucking the crackdown thing that happens. Like, bro, we literally co-stream together. Like, there's it's like it's so long gone. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It was kind of funny to me, but I kept doing content on T1. It's like or like of Worlds. It's like in my mind, it's like there was this. I had this conversation. Like I put Zeus third. Because I put Ben and Keen, and my argument was that it sometimes you're in circumstances where you have to do.
That was correct.
It's like sometimes you're playing games where you have to do more, and that's because you're the victim of your team. Like this, let's say Chovy in Spring, he was the victim of his team, had to do crazy out of fucking sorts performances. Or let's say like Faker 2017, he had like some of the craziest career-long performances because his team was suffering. And I think Keen and Ben just had to do more, even though Zeus was good. And people are killing me. People are killing me for this. So that's my experience currently.
I mean, Keen was probably the best performing player on Gen G at World.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a thing that I'm trying to bring up that people don't really understand is that not everyone has the opportunity to be clutch or make a big play in a game. Like, just because Faker made a huge play and like he made a clutch play and carried his team when they needed, that doesn't mean that the same opportunity was presented to Bin, for example, to make a huge play that carries his team in a moment. Like Bin did what he was supposed to do in this final. In that final fight in game 5, he's a crazy fight, bro. Like he flashes Pop ER and he gets the double. Like it's like he does what he should in the fight, and then he's TPing, and while he's TPing, Faker makes the big play, and that's what ends the game, right? Like Faker makes the huge play. But I think that people view it as like everyone gets an opportunity in a game to make some type of big play, and it's like if one guy seizes it, Like that means that he was like the best player by far over all the other players. And it's like, sure, you can say that his performance ends up being the best. Like I'm completely down with like Faker being clutch, like him getting finals MVP, completely down with that too. What I'm not down with is the idea that because Faker made that play, somehow Bin is worse. I don't understand that. Like that's like where I draw the line is like now like people are saying, well, I think this just ended the Zeus versus Bin like GOAT top laner debate. I'm like, why? They both played amazing. Like why is it over now? Like we just saw it's not like Bin just got clapped by Zeus in this final. Like this was one where it's like they were very close throughout. If you go average performance for average performance, I think you can make the argument that Bin is just that Bin is still the best top laner in the world. So that's what I don't get is like one team wins and it's like now that proves that all 5 players are better than the other 5 players. Like I just feel like we're not watching the same game. That's how I always feel after Worlds because I'm like, wait, do we experience this together? Do we watch the games that happen? Because I watched Bin be a monster for an entire tournament. Like I think that this is like a great year for Bin's legacy. This is like a legacy defining year for Bin where it's like now there's people that were in the conversation that I think he's surpassed for sure when it comes to like GOAT top lane debate. Like at this point, I think it's just like Zeus and Bin are the best 2 top laners of all time. I think the Shy, like it doesn't matter that he has a Worlds win and Bin doesn't.
What about
Bin
Marin, Dom?
No, God, please
Marin?
don't start that. Please don't.
The Marin thing makes me want to. It makes me want to ceiling fan all over again, bro. It makes me want to jump right back to the ceiling fan when we talk about Marin. Like we have a guy who played 1 year, won Worlds in that year, and what I don't understand is why Faker fans would want Marin to be the GOAT top laner. Like, doesn't that take away from Faker? Like Faker was the best player by far. Seasons 3 to 7. That is like the majority of what makes Faker the GOAT. These last championships are gravy. Like no one really cares about them when it comes to him being the GOAT. He was the GOAT after season 7. He retires then. He's still the GOAT to this day. It's not because he was playing with the best top laner of all time as well. Like no, he wasn't playing with the best top laner of all time as well.
That's like people wanting Bengi to be the GOAT jungler. It's like you don't actually want that. You're not thinking about what you're saying. But Marin was good, but he was also a Maokai merchant, and he also was playing in a top lane that was severely depleted in 2015 after the Korean Exodus. So no, like Marin was good, but he is nowhere in the conversation of the greatest top laner of all time.
I mean, it's like 3 names. It's like the Shy, Bin, and Zeus. Like that's it. I'm not letting anyone else in. I'm not letting people want to put Smeb in there. We're not putting Smeb in there. Like I don't know why we're suddenly putting Smeb in there. Like
Smeb and Khan would be like third, like 4th and 5th, if anything. Like Khan probably 4th. But definitely top 3 is cemented, bro. Cemented.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think what people want is the fact that T1 won, and therefore it should end that debate without being able to, I guess, dissect the performances themselves. I think there's a good conversation there with Faker and Knight in the finals specifically. Like, that was an interesting one that I think you can make. But because Faker made the highlight play and Bin did not, that ends the conversation with Bin and Zeus. Like, those are separate things. And we'll dive all into that in just a little bit because it was a great finals. It did go 5. It was kind of like, it was a stock standard finals that I feel like went 5. It went to Silver Scrapes, and we'll get into that just a little bit. This episode specifically, though, because it's at the beginning of the month, it's going to be a little unique here, Monty.
Yeah. So our sponsors are very excited to be part of Power Spike. And since this is the last episode, we have a lot of sponsors on this show, guys. So shout out to all of our sponsors. And I will say this. It's more than normal. It's more than will be on the show in the future. The thing is that this is the last episode of the year and everybody piled onto it. So if you guys like Power Spike, I would strongly encourage you to think about purchasing from our sponsors on this show if you've been considering it, either for yourselves or as gifts with the holiday coming up for other people in your family or your friends. Because it really does help us out. And we would love for these sponsors to be back next year. So, guys, we give you this content for free. They're going to be sponsors on this show. And we are very grateful to them. So just be aware. Normally, there will not be this many. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Yeah. And so here we go. That was a little catch up with everyone. And before we dive into the finals themselves and Worlds as a whole, got to remind you about one of our friends and partners of the show. with the holiday season coming up, it's it's Power Spike. It's AG1. Now the holiday season is starting up, and it's easy to fall off of your routine. Working out, taking care of yourself. And that's why we have partnered with our friends over at AG1. And it's something that we've been using now throughout the year and has definitely changed my routine since joining up. And right now, AG1 is running a special Black Friday offer for all of November. AG1 is a daily health drink packed with nutrients to help alleviate bloating, support sustained energy, and whole body health. You've heard us talk multiple times on how it's been additive to our routines, having a creatine alongside it. For me, it's helped keep me going regular, bathroom breaks when you're constantly watching all the matches or rewatching it afterwards or streaming afterwards, knowing that, hey, I don't have to worry about that despite whatever I'm eating. It's been hugely helpful for us here, thanks to our friends over at AG1. So this holiday season, try AG1 for yourself or even gift it to someone special. It's the perfect time to focus on supporting your body with an easy and surprisingly delicious daily health drink. And that's why we've been partnering with AG1 for so long. Now, every week of November, AG1 will be running a special Black Friday offer for a free gift for your first subscription, in addition to the welcome kit with the vitamin D3 plus K2. So make sure to get yours at drinkag1.com/LFNlegends to see what gift you can get this week. That's drinkag1.com/LFNlegends to start your holiday season off on a healthier note while supplies last. Thanks to our friends over at AG1. Now, let's move on over to the finals themselves. The end of the season, number one team from the LPL, the pride of China, it's BLG, and the storyline team, the most historic team in the history of League of Legends, T1. They find themselves as a fourth seed into the finals. And guys, I think everyone that I was talking to had picked T1 to win. I had a hard time, except for you. I think you picked 3-2 BLG. And that's what I was telling everyone. And that's what made me worried. I was like, I don't know if there's an expert out there that picked BLG other than Dom publicly, because T1's been coming in with all the plot armor.
You don't want to get because you just don't want to get flamed by the masses. That's
I think
the majority
that's part
of it
of
for
it.
most people.
Yeah, I think that's
like the
part
majority of it. That is the majority of it. Like, not a part. It is just like literally.
I don't mind getting
that,
flamed, and I still pick T1. So
yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I mean,
so
majority of people did not, though. Majority of people are picking T1 because
that I believe.
Yeah.
So with that, we go into game number one, and BLG just shit on T1. It was silent as hell over at the O2 Arena over in London. It was cool to watch. Like, I enjoyed that because I didn't want it to just be a romp, and we know how good BLG can be. And it was cool to see them firing on all cylinders right from the jump and have it kind of just set the stage for what was going to happen for the rest of the night, I'd say. So
I'll tell you, dGon. So the first three games were pretty boring. Not that it was like bad League of Legends, but they were well snowballed by the teams. And it was like 2 a.m. in Korea by this point in time. So I just went to bed because I thought BLG was going to win.
Did you?
Yeah. So I didn't see games 4 and 5 live. I had to see them later on. So I missed the actual exciting games live, but it turned out to be a good final, but I was concerned there for a while that it was going to be a bit stompy.
Yeah, it was pretty somber out in Lol Park. I was there at the viewing party. We had an LCK viewing party, and then T1 basically took over the lobby area where you can watch. They had hundreds, almost 1,000 fans there, and even fans like kind of just lined up. And I went out when they won game 2, and it was super loud. I went out in game 3. It was like a funeral. It was just, the emotion there was great, and it really did feel like it was done and dusted because the snowballing was so strong, and the magic for both teams just didn't feel like it was there. It was very calculated. It was, okay, we're ahead, we find these wins, and we snowball
the first
out.
3 games were just pretty clinical.
Yeah. So let's go back to Yamato here. Overall, what did you make of the first 3 games of the series?
I honestly like loved it because it was so honest in terms of like the game
Yeah.
positions. I feel like the first three games really delivered on why I preferred this matchup over like the Genji Billy Billy matchup or the T1 Genji matchup, because I think that there's a lot of similarities in terms of how Billy Billy and T1 like progressed the games, and we had like dives and we had like early game situations. I think like that game 2, the T1 dive that they did off of the stacking wave on bot when they 5v4'd under the turret, like forcing Knight to like hover onto that dive and them just like committing to that decision completely, and it just working out because Korea like lands a really, really nice like handshake. You know, those moments for me, like I live for those moments. I really, really respect teams as well that like it was such a parallel game 2 and 3 in terms of how like the game was snowballing, and then one time they tried to catch the enemy on side. Like one time it was Silas, and one time it was Knight on Galio, I believe, or even maybe he was playing Silas too. They tried to catch him, they lose the game. I like this type of active gameplay because in the end it's like, oh, we're losing. If these next steps happen, we're going to lose. So we're trying to break the game, and both teams were so in tune with that idea. So I personally, like, I really, really enjoyed first 3 games. Like I was in a YouTube booth, like in the middle of a bar somewhere, like at the player social, but my microphone like didn't pick up on my screaming. You could just see me on the camera just screaming, but no sound comes out because I just broke the sound barrier. So I really, I had a good time in the first 3 games. It was just so precise, like especially that game 2. There's that dive. It was one of my favorite moments in the whole tournament.
All right, Dom, what'd you make of it? Did you feel like it was done and dusted like a lot of people did after 3 games?
No, I mean, but I'm like one of the people that actually just respects T1. Like, but I'm not one of these like fake people that respect it. Like before the tournament, I was saying that T1 could win. So like, I just think that T1 is the team that like, sure, their backs were against the wall and they weren't in that position during the tournament, but they're a team that the reason why I thought they would be good at this tournament is you have to beat them multiple times. Like you can't just beat them in like one game and then they just give up. The way a lot of teams you can feel them crumble. Like you saw Genji crumble. You've seen teams just lose it. Like LNG was similar, I would say, when they lost to Weibo. It's like when they had that hard game against Weibo, they just lost it completely in the series. So I didn't think it was over. I thought BLG was the better team coming in. And even after watching the games, I kind of had like the same feeling. Like even after watching T1 win, I was like, yeah, Faker just had like insane clutch plays in games 4 and 5, and that's what like brought them over the line. But I actually felt like the BLG team was playing as promised. I think that they did like deliver what they are good at. Like you saw the reason why BLG was consistently at the top of like, you know, MSI Worlds, you know, LPL throughout the whole year. You got to see what these qualities are that they have. So I mean, it was disappointing obviously to see them lose, but after the games, if they were to like play it again, I would have like if they were to just end that series and they're like, all right, playing the series again tomorrow, we're having another finals, I would have just thought that BLG would have won again. Like I actually did feel like BLG had systematically like better setups and things throughout the games, but I thought that T1 was just better in the clutch moments when it mattered throughout the series. So that's kind of like what my interpretation was. And I think we even saw it in game 5, for example. Like when you look at game 5, T1 has the Herald play, like on misses the Q flash on Rel. BLG gets super behind off that. Like, I mean, if that hits, you know, like they're getting a lead. They get super behind, but if you watch up from that point up until the point where BLG takes that fight before Drake spawns and all that stuff, if you look at how the game is progressing, BLG has somehow taken a deficit of 2K and went even, essentially. Like now they're fighting on even terms with a comp that's like kind of hard to play. There's a lot of things that can stop the Jacks there, and they're able to find the fight. So I thought that like BLG showed why they are consistently good, is they can play multiple game states, but they just weren't able to get it over the line versus T1. And that's, yeah, you know, like Faker just had his insane moments. I think also game 4, it's something that I like, a lot of people were saying 3-1 BLG when I saw draft. Or like in my chat, people were like, oh, it's like a wrap 3-1 BLG. But I don't trust BLG playing comps like that. Like I'm just not.
That's a Gen G comp. That's a Gen G comp.
Yeah, when I see a Zig Smolder, that's something that I'm not like. I know BLG can play the comp and they can play it good enough to win. It's not like they can't win on it. They have won on it multiple times. They won on it in the LPL. They're able to win against Weibo with similar style comp. But it was something that for me, I'm like, this is just not what they're really good at. So I was worried that they were not going to be able to avoid fights for long enough to get to the point where they could just smolder them at,
Yeah, and
Plus
especially
straight.
because T1 is definitely going to be used to playing against Gen G, playing these compositions. And my concern about the Smolder comp was because, look, you can always take it with a grain of salt because the China versus China matchups, especially at internationals, end up being weird a lot of the time because the opponent, they know each other so well. Sometimes they could just like lapse into like an LPL style. But BLG and Weibo, when BLG played them, I mean, they were scaling very nicely, and then I think took some inopportune fights, particularly around that Drake. And they took fights they didn't have to take instead of being patient, and they allowed Weibo to get back into the game. And now BLG did close it, but I was concerned that they were going to take some unnecessary kind of engagements in this game. But T1 really applied a lot of pressure, and especially against Elk. I mean, Faker did a really good job keeping Elk out of some very important fights, especially around Grubs in the top side.
I mean, wasn't that game 4 the one where Zeus just died? Well, he didn't just die, but he got doved a lot and fell behind in terms of kills, but in terms of KDA, but because of the waves that were there and the fact that Ben was helping, he ended up being ahead in that
Yes.
in the matchup. Like that just felt like, again, such unique understanding of the situation, the math. I think weren't we talking about this over at MSI at the beginning of this year with like Impact saying sometimes you got to TP right away and you know that you're going to get dove again, but it's worth the experience that you're going to get even though you're going to die a second time after TP. Like it just felt like, oh, cool. This is like we're getting to see this at the highest level in the highest pressure, and Zeus still knows this is the right thing to do.
I mean, I don't even know if it's the right thing to do there. I think it was fine for him to do. Like the result of it was okay. Like he ends up getting an individual experience lead over Bin, but at the same time, the Ziggs is accelerated. So like really what broke the game to me was when Faker was able to get that solo kill on the Ziggs who is ahead. Because if Ziggs is able to just base there, because Ziggs was like, if you actually go back and watch it, that solo kill stems from Ziggs trying to greed an extra plate because he's getting ready to back. He has TP. He thinks that Silas doesn't have enough damage to kill him, even if he all ins. And Elk is really greedy there. He goes for like the Q auto. Then he realizes that Faker actually is going to chase him down because Faker bought early tier 2 boots. So he satchels him back. He tries to run. And because he dodges the Silas E, he saves his flash. And because he saves his flash so long, enough damage is put into him where he ends up being diveable. Really what Elk is trying to do is like at that time, he's trying to, because Faker has a ready TP, he's trying to like get a little bit of chip damage on him. Then he's going to base, he has Ludens, he's going to TP back and they're going to fight Grubs. That's the whole idea. And he's the one accelerated. But if you're the one accelerated, you can't make the mistake like that. You can't actually end up getting solo killed by the Silas in that situation. So I think that it was actually like fine what Zeus did for both people. Like it's a way that he's putting the enemy AD carry ahead or the enemy bot laner ahead, but he's also going to get ahead in experience. And the question is who's going to be able to be stronger in these like early game fights. I think that for the BLG side of things, like if Elk has Ludens at that fight, that is a decent amount of power. I think that could be enough to get them over the line because they are a team that, like, if they're able to get a few Grubs there, can completely change the game because then, T1 can't push as effectively. So then they would be able to withstand the onslaught for a longer period of time if they're able to trade Grubs. Maybe they're able to pressure Grubs and still get a Drake out of it. There's a lot of situations that can happen where they just want to be able to extend the game to the point where their Smolder outscales everyone on the map. And they just weren't able to get there. Because of the fact that Faker did make that play and put Elk behind, and he also won a trade. I think the thing that they didn't catch on camera,
yes, that was what I was gonna say.
Elk actually, him dying is like bad, but it's like low key fine because he can still TP back. It's like, oh, Faker gets a kill, but he can TP back and they can still fight the Grubs. But then Faker wins another trade on top of that onto Elk, where they both get down to like 100 HP after Elk recall, so they both can't fight, and that ends up being the thing that secures the
Faker actually didn't get that low, I don't think, off of that second engagement, but it was happening off camera, and Faker actually just closed the distance on him, and I guess there was some sort of misuse of satchel charge. It's really hard to tell because you can just look at the mini map.
Because they just don't show it, but yeah.
But basically, like, Faker chips him out again, forces him to recall. This time he doesn't have TP, and Faker's able to push the wave, which allows them to get the Grubs. So it's like, it's not only the dive, it's the fact that after the TPs are used, Faker wins another very, very important fight. Then you get the 6 grubs, and then that allows them to like punish. Because like if you think about Billy's comp, they're really good at wave clear, like Smolder, Ziggs ult wave clear, but it becomes a lot harder for them to play if you know you can't just turtle as effectively if the enemy team has the 6 grubs. So I think it becomes really instrumental. And one thing that I've been talking about has been basically T1 in LCK was the first team to really push for 6 grubs, and they were the best team at utilizing the 6 grub buffs. And they were just better at knowing how far they could push it with 6 grubs in order to get especially tier 2 towers. And that happened very early on this year. And so it was interesting to me to see all of the kind of swing into focus at Worlds of grub control. But T1 was very much on that and practicing that for the entire year before a lot of other teams realized like how strong this style could be. So I think they also just knew their limits better, especially with 6 grubs, which is a big part of their wins in playoffs.
On my end, what I would like to add, it's like game 4. It's like even after like the Ziggs getting killed and so forth, it's like in the conversation of like Bin being clutch, like how he outplayed like the bottom gank when Poppy was going after him, that created like a scenario that eventually they threw because they chased after the Poppy and Renata like bailed him outright. It's like how he played that dive. There was also like a top play that just swung like 2k gold in their favor when they're scaling. It was like he's getting dove and he's just eating in as Nar and getting like ult on 3 people, like completely mind-blowing shit. But just because he lost the game, it will be completely like forgotten. Because even in that fucking game, in my opinion, Bin was like insanely clutch how he played. And I think a very, very big issue is that I think that for Billy was that T1 was much better in the initialized lane swaps in terms of understanding. Because if you extend, like looking at the game 5, like Billy's variant in terms of what they did, they crashed 2 waves top. So Gragas just turned around, caught that wave because he knows Javan's not going to be on 3. And then Kaiser bases, re-enters bottom side with no item. And T1 just reads that super well. Gragas was farming ahead of Jax, and at the same time, they could bounce 3rd wave on bot, and then they're getting level 3 on the wave that's coming, and they're just trapping in the bush, and that just broke Kaiser's lane phase completely. You never crash 2 waves into going into bottom side. It just doesn't make any sense, and I think Billy like botched some of the lane swap scenarios, and on the flip side, I think that T1 was really, really good in lane swaps. It's like I think in like the gang that they set up with the tempo trap was super nice, and I agree with Dom. The notion of like Billy managed to stabilize like a 4k gold deficit in bad matchups. Like Kaiser was so behind, and then they figured out a way to get like a very, very even fight, I believe, on Drake 4, right? In a game scenario where they are super weak. Like I love the TP from Ari and Jax to get like the double kill. Owner didn't need to die on that one, but he did, right? Because they knew we're losing towers. We're gonna lose tier 1 anyway because the enemy has grubs. We're getting fucked here, so we need to kind of create some imbalances in summoners and also in gold that made Ari ahead. And then you had that fight, of course, at Drake. Which was insanely close. But I think that when it comes to like T1, when they're playing with jungle support pairings that need to contest 3v3 together on side, I think they do a lot worse. Like this entire tournament, what has made Kyria so good is either he plays ranged champions and pressures through mid. The one time he couldn't do that when he played Renata against Ons, Blitzcrank and Kalista, then their map was just falling apart completely. Like Zeus and Fake were dying on side. They tried to contest through mid. Renata's perma showing he can't. The other way is they play Pyke, Rakan, Bard, and he just has so much mobility that he can just take the vision on his own. And Owner is just perma farming. Like he's just perma farming in mid game, and he just covers the vision. But when they played the Leona, Poppy, Braum pairings, and they needed to contest 3v3, this is where Billy and a lot of other super jungle pairings were a lot better. And I think it was definitely shown in that Poppy game that they couldn't find ways to break onto side because Billy was farming very, very actively. It's like when Kyria was playing the mobile champs, he was breaking the map on his own because he could just like tether into the enemy. Like his Pyke games, he was just walking forward on 4 people because he knows if the enemy throws spells, he can just E out. And that information was enough for the solo laners to farm. So I like that T1 figured this out. because that was like my main concern for T1 is like melee supers is not working for them, not because Kiria is like boosted and can't press his spells. It's more about how they set up the map, and they figured this out elegantly. But I'm happy to see that their weaknesses still were showcased, because if people think back about the Swiss stage, T1 versus Bin, once again, Bin had a very good game. He solo killed Nar. And in that game as well, even though On was not the greatest Poppy, how Billy took over side was way better. They killed Faker on side one time on a gank. They killed Zeus that set up the Nasher play, right? And it's these small details and nuances is what, of course, makes a difference in the end, because maybe Billy plays that Nasher differently, and then all of a sudden the whole tournament just looks different. Maybe Billy would be worse because they won and they got out of Swiss easier. maybe T1 would look better. It's just such a weird tournament, because like the lessons that you learn are only happening on stage. I think like the development and scrims are just not there. So it's fun looking back at it. It's like it's all about very, very minor details in the end, because that final fight, not the final one where Gragas like fucking body bops Kaiser, where they tried to kill him before Soul.
But at the Drake, the Drake and
Drake
mid.
fight, right? The Drake fight.
That's the one that
was
effectively ended the game.
Yeah. Like that effectively ended the game for sure. And like what Jax did there was like from fucking jujitsu shit, you know, he's just fucking flashing over Poppy, queuing over Poppy, killing Zaya, and Knight was also smurfing. And then it's like the extension of like how On played and Honor killed, and then comes Galio, the fucking superhero faker to break it all. Like it was insane. It was truly something else. I really enjoyed this finals.
Yep.
How would you rate it in the last, I guess, since what, 20? Yeah, I guess, how would you rate this? Would you rate this in the top 5? Top?
Sure. I mean, there haven't been that many good Worlds finals, right?
Pretty much been this in the. I mean, there was this one. There was the
DRX.
2022. There was the EDG.
Yep.
Dom 1, and then there was like the 2016, like almost comeback. I mean, outside of those, I don't think any of them have even been like that good. Like, there's been like 3-0s. There was like the Weibo 3-0. There was the IG 3-0, the FPX 3-0. Yeah, I mean, there was just like a lot of kind of like. Yeah, 2015 was just like you just felt like T1 was the better team in 2015. 2014.
Yeah, 2013, 2014
effectively
were
a stomp. Yeah.
So what do we have it, like third, second? I don't think
for me
third.
personally, best finals of all time, because I think just the clash of styles is perfect. I think like Damwon versus EDG was so polarizing in how they played. So it was like, oh, they're playing.
Damwon versus EDG was trash because Game 5 was so underwhelming, man.
It was.
Yeah. I feel like it was just a perfect clash of styles, and obviously in terms of entertainment, like DRX was really dramatic, like that was a fucking anime. But in terms of like level of play, I think this one really hit my funny bone.
I think in terms of excitement, it was probably 2022. Like especially that final game was like pretty hype with Barrel's Bard coming in.
Steal by Guma, yeah,
but,
like that.
Yeah, now maybe this one does do it for me. Like especially because of games 4 and 5. I mean, it really did feel like the quintessence of T1. I mean, we didn't. I'll touch on it very quickly, but I think what was so cool about the Faker Silas play was that it's just like it was the encapsulation of T1 style, which is that they love to run these pick compositions. They love these long range engages. They love tempo traps, like Faker pushed up in the bot lane, basically faked a recall and just waited to see if BLG would push tier 1 mid while Bin was farming at tier 2 turret. And then they realized that, hey, we've got Chemtech map and we've got this powered up blast cone and we're going to be able to make this. Everybody sends it. They even missed the Ash Arrow and they still are able to, completely wombo people with three-man Poppy ult knock up and Renata Glass ult and, Equalizer, everything coming in there. Like, it's just a beautiful play. So that, that one play was kind of, to me, the entire 3 years of T1's development in one moment, which was really cool. It's like all the aspects of this team that you like to see in that one point in time. So, it's great to see Faker be this clutch in these moments because he's the most clutch player of all time for sure. But it's not something, I would say that was true earlier in his career because 2022 DRX finals is kind of underwhelming. I don't think he had to do a lot in the finals last year. He did do a lot, obviously, in the JDG matchup.
JDG, yeah.
But and he actually did in the semis of 2022. His Rise play in the semis in 2022 was really, really good as well. But it was fun to see him in the do or die moments when they're on game point twice. You know, have these big moments in a final. It was nice to see.
Yeah, I just want to touch on that because this is the only player in League of Legends that's gonna do that in his 4th championship. How many guys are gonna have 4? How many guys are gonna be like left for trash because he's much older?
Here's the
injuries.
thing, this really does cement Faker's legacy forever, though, dGon, to your point, because what happens if Knight wins the last 2 worlds? All of a sudden, it's 2 worlds to 3 worlds for Faker. Is Knight, is Knight now the one who's going to be eclipsing Faker's legacy, or if Chovy had done the same thing? But basically, by winning the last 2 worlds, Faker put it entirely out of reach, which is amazing.
Yeah, I think it's also one of those things where like more recent worlds are going to be valued just more in general because the earlier worlds like pre-season 6, I mean, no one was even competing with Korea really until season 8, right? Like there was no real competition because that the old school Vision game was so like boring. But if you think about how the game has progressed, the earlier worlds, like the season 3 worlds, T1 was so much better than every other team. Faker so much better than every other player that it doesn't feel like there was that. It's like he's playing with like more cards or something in his deck. You know, it feels like he's so much better that it's like he's winning. But people are going to go back and be like, oh, the game wasn't developed. Like they don't have all these great players. Where now when he's playing against like this version of Knight, if Knight wins 2 in a row plus an MSI, like suddenly the conversation is like, is he even better than Faker because he's like sure, Faker has like longevity, but is it
teams?
2 different teams? Is it fake longevity? Because the thing that a lot of people get kind of stuck on is like longevity in the terms of like how long did you play versus how long were you actually good.
Great,
like longevity doesn't matter if you are like the worst player on a team and you're just like hanging on. If Faker like was the worst player in summer on T1, like I think indisputably he was the worst player in summer on T1. If he comes into Worlds and he's like the reason the team is losing, like let's say he's not the reason the team is winning, he's the reason the team is losing, suddenly like he's not getting longevity points in his accolades as well. So yeah, I think I completely agree that this is like these are the ones that make it like impossible for anyone else to come after his legacy. I think if another player got 2 in the modern era, there would be discussions. I still think it would be cited to Faker, but there would be discussions. But now it's like you would need to literally like go on a tear and just like win 6 in a row or some bullshit. Like you'd have to just do some like ridiculous stuff,
and
still
you have
there
to
might
have the
not
moments too, Dom. Like you couldn't be the fucking passenger. You know what I mean? I think this is just such a statement finals because the 5th one puts it out of reach. Even 4 was going to be stretching it, and it's the way he won this finals that is just going to go down, right?
Yeah,
like
definitely.
It's his play. It's his play, and that was cool, especially in a sleepy first 3 games, and it felt like the despair. I'm telling you, the despair in LCK and LoL Park and Korea and online and in the stadium was so palpable. Halfway through game 4, everyone was like, "Oh shit!" Like, we were in the green room because we got to go onto the LCK broadcast, the green broadcast at the end of the show, and I was like, I don't want to go on if I'm, they're gonna be like, all right, here's the new guy dGon, and now LCK is not winning the worlds. What are we gonna say? What are we gonna do? And it changed on a dime because the GOAT did GOAT shit, and it was cool. It was cool to watch. I want to propose something on the opposite side because as Worlds ended, we got to see a lot of content come out from I guess translated content, and one of the ones was did you guys see the package of the Chinese streamers put together for specifically like game 5? So it was like Uzi and Duanbi and like a couple of like famous Chinese streamers and kind of their comments throughout game 5. And I mean, they were giving it to On. They were giving it to On. They were respecting Faker and the Faker Galio. Like Uzi was seeing ghosts. Like it just, I guess my point is when we think about BLG and BLG's performance, who where does this fall on? Is it just on? Is it just On's fault? Like, obviously Ben had played great. We agree on that.
I mean, I think like that's the thing is like it feels bad to put it on one player because it's like, I mean, they did just get beat in the crucial moments, and it's not like sure, like Knight walks, like there's always going to be mistakes, which is why a clutch play is going to even be like available most of the time. Like there is going to be, on
An opening.
Or like Knight just walking forward, creating the opening so that Faker's actually able to turn there. Sure, but like I think that in general, I just think that there was just players that did what they should. And one thing I wanted to talk about is when Yamato was talking about the 2v1s, this is the same way. Like BLG has not been a great 2v1 team. I think they got better over summer, and I was hoping that was enough to get them over the line, because I do think when it comes to like the raw fighting, BLG is like the best. Like when it comes to like raw like 5v5s, like they are just insane when it comes to those types of fights, and that's like why they've been so consistent the whole year. But one thing I wanted to say about Yamato's point was I think it's funny that LPL is the region that started the 2v1s, and then the 2v1s ended up killing the LPL at both MSI and World. Like I think that is just so like fucking crazy to think about, that like we would have probably just been playing standard lanes the entire year if NIP didn't do it. I mean, yeah, Rookie just ruined Worlds. He's probably not the one, like,
Rookie.
Wait, who was it that actually brought it out? I think it was Fodic. Fodic ruined everything. Yeah, Fodic was the one who started it. But I think that is actually a crazy thing to think about, that LPL, like they figured out, they discovered a strategy that ended up getting used against them and beat them in both international finals this year.
That's actually funny. I hadn't considered that, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so. But yeah, I would say the On point, like I think On definitely looked the worst compared to normal. I think that On is kind of like a bit of a nervous player. Like you could see it at times that he has this, but he's super fucking young, and like these finals, I mean, yeah, you got to hit that Q flash on Rel. Like that Q flash, I mean, Zen is just getting one shot there, right? Like you hit the Q flash. Ari was already, like Knight was playing off the Q flash from Rel. He already dashed forward on Ari.
Yeah.
He was, if that hits, E flash, owner dies first. They probably just get grubs. T1 doesn't have to engage past that point. But then the game is like stable, right? Like that is like a 2, and who knows if BLG is 2K up and they start playing the game like they did in that game 5, that could be the difference when it comes to like them having an insurmountable advantage. It might be the type of thing that, Faker's too behind to make that type of play when they get into the mid lane fight, or like the Jax is too strong that he's just able to repeatedly jump on the Zaya. So yeah, I mean, I think that these types of situations are tough. But yeah, I mean, On played pretty bad in game in game 5.
He
even
also
game
died
4.
in game 4 before the Drake fight. That was pretty terrible timing too.
The Drake fight was bad, and then also he should have been able to stop Faker's play. Like when Faker went for that like charm play, whatever, like he got his W canceled and he like doesn't insta charm. Like he should be literally peeling, because it's very obvious the enemy team is going, right? Like they fired Ash Arrow, Faker's coming from the side, everyone is beelining at you. You have to just like charm up the Silas. So I think that there were definitely, but like if On plays better, or if he plays more similar to how he played throughout the year, I think that's what puts BLG over the edge. So,
but I mean,
he was definitely the biggest offender.
The thing is that this was a very good finals, so it's hard to like nitpick, right? And this is the difference between winning a world championship and not. And then sometimes a player can make a couple of mistakes, and at this level of competition, I mean, this is what you want to see, right? And I don't think that the reaction to this is, replace On or anything like that, because if you watch the year, On had a very good time, right? He was a very good player for most of this year. So I think it's hard, but sometimes it's just which players are actually playing their best on that day. And even one mistake from a player at this level of competition can cost you very, very dearly.
Yeah.
In my mind, I think it's like I don't want to put too much weight into like one game, one moment. I just look at On's entire tournament, and that was extremely, extremely disappointing. I think a lot of the supports got used to playing with like Warmog's armor being unkillable and playing melee matchup perma. And I think On was really, really fucking good at that. But then when everything shifted, like with the nerfs to support items, I think that Korea was the only one that found traction. Because I think that like Delight kind of gets low-key carried by that four-man engage he did on Genji, where like he just brought back the game. But I think that Delight didn't have a good tournament by his standard. Lehens had a horrible tournament. On had a bad tournament. It's like Mickey was like meh, right? And I think that On, if I look at his tournament as a whole, his like median performance was awful. And I think that we saw a lot of signs of that in this finals too. I think I sympathize more with the jungle situation because I do think that Shun had really, really fucking good games. I think if Bilibili won out, Shun was like low-key my MVP in that because like the Kindred game, the Sejuani game, I thought that game 4 they're winning and how he like found the ganks over and over again, I thought was absolutely insane. So I have like a lot of sympathy to the fact that he just got pulled in after the team dropped like 2 games, right? And it was a bit messy there. I think that he still had a really, really good tournament, all things considered. Like if you have to blame someone, it has to be kind of On, right? But I think it's just I bring back to the initial thought I had coming into the series. I thought it would be giga close, and I thought that if On plays on the level that he's had in the entire year, I think that Bilibili wins. If not, I just feel like the impact on support would be too big. But he did have good games. I think his Blitzcrank game was good. I think that his game 1 Rel game was also good, but as you guys mentioned, you know, that Q flash on Zin missing, that's tough, man. That's
I mean,
really,
he had
really
full
tough.
vision too. Like people don't see they hit the Scryer's bloom, so he had full vision of just a guy walking in a straight line, and he missed his Q flash on Rel. That's why like the Chinese streamers are going off.
Yeah. I'd also like that game, that fight at Drake, he kind of like goofed off. Like he's just like how he uses flash and how he uses spells. Like that's really, really. I
mean,
goofy.
Owner killed him like pretty easy. I mean, the more I think about this, the more I think that like it's like, damn, Bin just actually played as a champion. Like he played like what is he going to do to win? Like if he wins Worlds in the upcoming years, you think he's gonna play better than this? Like I feel like he did exactly what you'd expect from a top laner. Like what more could he do from that position? I mean, we all agree the top lane is like the role where it's like it's the most isolated role, right? It's the hardest role to affect the game generally when you play top lane in competitive play in solo queue, whatever. What more can that guy do? Feels bad for him, man, because it's like who knows what's gonna happen in upcoming years? Who knows what the meta will even be? We had a meta that was pretty good for Zeus and for Bin, but who knows what the meta could end up being in future years. Maybe we end up in a meta where it's just tanks, it's bullshit like that, and you know, worst top laners get to win Worlds. Kingen gets to fucking win Worlds. Oh my god! Like, if Kingen ends, if I have to ever have anyone
dare
say
you
that,
talk about MVP of Worlds Kingen like that?
if I ever have to have a discussion of if Kingen is better than Bin all time, that's ceiling fan again, bro. Ceiling fan again. Like,
did you know that Beryl is maybe the greatest support player of all time?
Yep, I knew that. That's been kind of abandoned. I haven't heard that taken. Like that was something that was very popular. Like what was that? 2 months ago, Yamato and I were discussing this. We were seeing the thread on Keijo's community. It feels like that's been completely abandoned. I don't see anyone arguing for that anymore. I don't know what happened there.
That's because Keria got 2 world championships, so now they can't argue for Beryl anymore.
Oh, so that's what it was. So if Keria lost this finals, he would have been worse than Beryl. Keria with his level of play, this entire like. Keria has just always been better than Beryl, man. Like, what? God. I hate it so much, man.
I'm just one guy, Dom, now.
Yep.
The one guy, the one guy's inside the team. What the hell?
He's in the house. He's inside the house. But I also think, you know, credit to T1 for this event. We've talked about this extensively. They've been top 3 at every single event they've ever played at, even if they haven't actually won many of them. You know, their attempts, you know, it is kind of a bummer they haven't won more for being top 3 so consistently. But this was clearly an amazing glow up, was facilitated by the patch, but also for a roster that had all those DDoS issues this year. Faker had what I can only assume were persistent injury issues. And it just feels like the break before Worlds the last couple of years when he's had this injury has been really helpful in making his mechanics significantly better by the time we actually get into Worlds. And I also think that probably the longer periods of time between matches, as well as the fact that you can't really practice towards the end of Worlds because there's nobody to practice with anymore. Probably helped him so he wasn't having so many issues. And it seems like from some of the interviews that were done, he's been changing up his posture and getting, you know, physical therapy and everything for it, which probably has been helping as well. But it is a really, really big turnaround for a team that was very clearly frustrated in summer, not doing well, nearly didn't even make Worlds. You know, we could have had KT here instead, which would have been tragic, right? Because KT definitely would not have risen to this occasion. So all things considered, I mean, I think this is a really impressive performance by T1, and you know, they deserve the praise.
Yeah, there's I can't find it on Reddit. There was the closing remarks from the LPL host before they closed the broadcast on, you know, basically saying where the mountains and the river meets is where is Faker. It is inevitable, and it is like infinite, basically. And it was just a mountain of text, but it was a beautiful prose. I was like, man, that's a real host. Giving props to Faker, but Faker is the reason why the LPL continues to wake up and find something to strive towards and strive to defeat. But he reminded us why he is so great today. It was something along those lines, and it was brilliant. I tried to find it so I could do it justice, but it's in Reddit somewhere, and I wasn't able to pull that one out. But all right, there you have it. Last question, I guess, on that. Faker getting MVP. Was there anyone else? Would you think about giving it to anyone else on T1?
Nope.
Can't be. Like even like the camera shot of Kyria, like after he like fucked up in game 4 and he just like did this shit, you know? It just looked so defeated. Like, bro, it was too cinematic. But for second place, if we want to have that discussion, would be Kyria for me though. Second place in the finals.
I felt like just that play at the very end too. I mean, you know, there were parts of the series where he was getting gapped by Jun, but I just felt like Owner on the Xin Zhao to set up the flash play. Everyone's like, look at Faker on the flash play. I was like, I didn't even recognize that he landed the Xin Zhao Q or whatever, Wind Becomes Lightning, to dash back on in to start the knock up and all of that stuff, along with the flash snare. I felt like that was he was doing a great job there in the clutch moments too. Owner was mini clutch factor.
Also,
there
it had ult, which is probably the single.
You're not
most
allowed to give Owner proper credit, is what I've learned. When T1 does anything well, it's Faker. When T1 ever sucks, it's Owner. That's how that shit works, bro. Like, that's how it's always been.
It's the goat and the sacrificial goat, as they call it.
Yep.
Yes.
When people were rumoring T1 potentially splitting up, I think the person that has the most to gain off them splitting up would be Owner, because it feels like Owner, like he's been so insane. Like whenever, like mechanically, this guy is just crazy. Like he almost never messes up mechanically. Like sometimes he'll get out path. There'll be like situations that are hard for him to solve. But when it comes to like his individual play, I think that there's almost no one better than him, right? Like he's just the best mechanical jungler we have. So I feel like if they split up, people would really get to see how good Owner is, provided he went to a team that can actually utilize his strengths.
The off-season roster rumors has been like, just because it is LCK and it is T1 and they were doing the Last Dance kind of like feel type stuff, it felt like a lot was paused. Not everything, because obviously C9 has their thing locked down, but a lot was paused until those final pieces fell in place. And I have heard both. They are staying together and they aren't staying together, so I don't know what to believe yet, and we'll see what happens when things. So
many rumors. Is Doran going to be reunited with Chovy on Gen G? Right? Is Keen going to Hanwha? Is Ruler going to KT, or is he going back to Gen G? Who knows? Stay tuned.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of that, and I'm excited for the chips to settle so that we can.
Bin's a free agent.
Yeah, okay. That was the other thing about this finals, the fallout of it. The whole concept of LPL is not spending as much anymore. We talked about the salary cap stuff. The rumor I heard is that the big teams are still gonna spend. They're not going budget. That's what I heard. That was the last that I heard. Obviously, the salary cap thing is still a thing. Are there ways around the salary cap? I'm not 100% sure on the LPL rules on the salary
It's
cap.
a soft cap, so yes, you can spend as much as you want. It just costs you exponentially
Luxury
more
tax.
money. Yeah, there's
So
just
like
luxury tax.
basketball?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. So then last that I had heard is that the big teams weren't going budget yet. That was, and that's the hope. I mean, do you feel like a loss like this, Dom, would just?
I mean, I think it's like low. Like when I felt like LPL needed to win this Worlds, to be honest. That's like, well, that's kind of how I felt when it was happening. I think that this like might just kill the LPL. Them losing.
The thing though is that with the LCK and their salary caps coming into play, a lot from what I understand from what I've heard from LCK, basically being in Korea, is that a lot of these teams kind of the new meta of roster building is going to be like 1 or 2 star players and then basically a bunch of rookies or lesser known players. So I think kind of the era of the LCK super teams, like I don't think Gen G is going to run it back in the way that they did previously. I don't think that it's possible to afford that roster again unless they all take massive pay cuts. So as far as LPL is concerned, I feel like if they still have teams that want to spend, they should actually be in a pretty strong competitive position.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that from like fan perspective and stuff, like there's already like been massive viewership loss in China. And like, if you consider how things have been going recently, right? Like from like 2018 to 2022, it was majority just LPL winning. Like they won like 7 out of the 9 internationals. Cause I mean, they won MSC as well against Korea. I don't know if people even consider that anything. But they were like winning all the time from 2018 to 2022. The last 2 years has been like it switches to be from being Korea dominated to completely even if BLG wins this, right? Like if BLG wins this, then they've won 1 MSI and 1 Worlds like in the last 2 years, and the LCK has won one MSI and 1 Worlds as well, right? So it'd be even. I think them losing this one, like with salary caps coming in and just like how people want to get paid, maybe BLG wants to stick together, but I think most people like. I think what should end up happening is that these teams will not be like there's not going to be super teams in China anymore because of the salary cap. The star players are going to be spread much more thin across all the teams. And then also we hear like RA is leaving, so we have 1 team leaving. We have 4 teams that are already confirmed being budget, and this all ends up hurting the region. It's not like, oh, do you just have one good team together? It's like, what are they playing against? Like the thing that made LPL so strong for the longest time was the competition that you had within the region. So I think this might end up being the thing that like kills off like LPL hope. This might just be like the end of the LPL is what I would think.
How much is the ban on kids playing video games affecting it? Do you know?
I have no idea. Like, so when that happened, what people were saying is that most parents would just like sign in for their kids.
Sure.
And, like, that would be like the kids that actually had a chance to do it would be, helped by their parents because you can make so much money off of it. The parents would be on board, right? But I'm not sure how much that's actually affected it.
To add as well, I feel like the last 2 years, it's like LPL sent their biggest and baddest bullets, like the JDG roster, this Billy roster, right? Like you have to piece together rosters and hope that people are going to do it for the purpose of winning. But
is Faker
it's
killing League of Legends by beating the LPL?
Well, no, it's the fans are
Is this
killing
the
League of
title?
Legends by overvaluing Worlds. That's really what it is. It's like it actually does feel like if you don't like it does feel like if you don't
Are
win Worlds,
Faker's
then nothing you
fans
did matter.
killing League of Legends?
Maybe that's a fucking title. I do feel like teams like the way that I think the biggest loser, I think most people are respecting BLG, but the biggest like loser this year in terms of narratives to me has to be Gen G. Like the way that people talk about like Gen G was like they were like the team all year, guys. Like they were like the fucking scariest team for the entire year. They hit the highest level of play that we saw any team play throughout the entire year, right? Like they hit like the max where it was like, holy fuck, this team is like unbeatable, right? But people talk about them like they're shit now because they lost Worlds. Like I don't know.
They had the greatest. They had the greatest regular
bad.
season in LCK history, and apparently they're terrible.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to watch because it's like, I mean, and what for me it feels like is that everything we do during the year is completely worthless. Like the only thing that matters is Worlds. That's
No.
actually how it feels like most people view it.
I think it's just simply to the casual fan. I think the folks that definitely
Which
tune
they're the most
into
of those. Like,
well during Worlds, yeah, but I think the people that watch your stream, people that watch our show, the people who watch Yamato, people who watch Monty, like those are the ones that are coming to get informed. Those are the ones that know the grind and love this shit. But I just feel like during Worlds, it is a spectacle. You do get outnumbered. I mean, during the Olympics, you watch the Olympics, and I don't watch track and field all year long, but hell yeah, America. Good job, Noah Lyles. You know, like
that's probably exactly how it feels. That's probably exactly how it feels. These people
Is it
watch
like a Gen G sprinter. They're just winning the whole year and just losing at the Olympics.
What?
And
Yeah.
are the sprinters like out there like that?
Probably, bro.
It's
Probably.
like Simone Biles from the not this Olympics,
The
but
one
the previous
before.
one.
Yeah. You're like, isn't she the greatest? Isn't she the most decorated like American Olympian gymnast? Like, what happened? I think that actually makes a lot of sense. And the reason why I use sprinting here, Yamato, as the example is because Whippo during the sack down used it as well as his analogy for teaching people League of Legends. So if you haven't seen that, go watch the sack down as well after this episode is done. You could support the rest of Last Free Nation as well. Hit that like and subscribe button so you miss any of our fire
videos of Whippo sprinting?
I'm
He
sure.
just walks.
I mean,
does his crab walk, but insanely fast. It's like when Urgot ghosts, just it's basically him with 3 legs, just fucking walking at you, bro.
Jesus.
Someone get the wide Whippo walk and then 4 exit for us, please. That'd be good. All right. Well, that closes it there for the World Finals and some of the fallout that we had for it, which was the first half of our show. Second half are the Power Spike Awards, where we're going to go down all the roles and give out some, roles for the people in the West as well, because they're probably not the top at any of the roles, which is fine. And we'll have that.
I had to add that in there just so that maybe a white person would win something.
Yeah, that's right. But before we do, we've got another reminder from one of our friends here that powers Power Spike. And there's our friends over at ExpressVPN here, Monty.
That's right. ExpressVPN. You should use it because it protects you. You wouldn't just like leave your laptop sitting in a coffee shop and go to the bathroom. Most of the time people probably don't take it, but sometimes it might just be gone, guys. It's dumb. So you should probably protect your data as well. And if you are in that coffee shop, I would also recommend you use ExpressVPN because if you're on public Wi-Fi, people could be just stealing your data over the public Wi-Fi network. So if you're not on an encrypted network with a password, use ExpressVPN. It has an app that you can actually download onto your PC. I use it all the time. Use it on my phone, especially in Korea where there's public networks everywhere. I always have it running on my phone these days. So go ahead, get ExpressVPN. Also allows you to, of course, access content that you're already paying for, such as the entire Netflix library, because it changes from country to country, which is very, very useful, guys. Very useful indeed. It works on absolutely everything. Phone, laptop, tablet, whatever you want. And it's rated #1 by top tech reviewers like CNET and The Verge. So now's your time to get ExpressVPN. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/powerspike. That's expressvpn.com/powerspike. And you can get an extra 3 months free. expressvpn.com/powerspike. That's right. We're helping. We're protecting you from your data being stolen and also getting you extreme value out of the streaming services you already pay for.
That's right. I have it on my phone and it's been super useful. And I'm flying back to the States tomorrow and I'm going to use it then there and be able to connect back to Korea so that I can connect to some of the services that you can only use while you're in Korea. Boom. All right. Well, thanks to our friends over at ExpressVPN. time for the Power Spike Awards for 2024. We kind of tipped our hand in the top lane matchup here because we already said the GOATs played of top lane already played in the finals. So for each award, let's gather some nominees as well. Maybe it's not the winner or your number one nominee, but just a refresher for people on like, hey, who else had a great year, so that they get that deserved nominee, so that we have like 5. Let's get like 5 total, and then we can really debate down on who is number one. And so here in this case, for the best top laner, Zeus and Ben obviously are our top 2. I think by far, clearly they've been great.
Not for Yamato. That's not what he said earlier.
Not for me.
Keen as well was another
Keen
one.
had a great year.
Breathe had a great tournament. I think that, if you're a big tournament, showing up at the right time, I think that's good. Who else? What are some other names in there that we want to see in this, accolade gathering moment?
I mean, I think if we're talking about this tournament specifically, I think Zika would be the 5th.
All year. This is for everything all year.
Yeah.
I mean, Zika was good. I mean, for all year. I mean, I guess you have to put Doran in there, even though I hate him. But yeah, I mean, I think you probably have to.
He
right?
won another title.
You proved us wrong.
His Jax was feared in LCK.
It was.
He was kind of like the Jax guy.
Billy Bandit too. 2 games.
Yep. I don't think
It
it was
has
a
to
great
be
year for
Doran, right?
369. I think BB deserves kind of a shout. I think BB actually did pretty well considered like international and how he played domestically. Like I thought he clutched up. So
our 2 boys from NA, do we give them the nod in the ecosystem for Impact or Whippo?
No.
Okay.
Nah, but Whipple's MSI was too bad. And
I mean, he also was probably in my mind one of the reasons why they lost in spring. So
okay. All right. So our top 5. Zeus, Bin, Keen, Zika, Doran. Is there anyone else, Yamato, that you feel like's missing here?
no, I think like the other names, right? It's
BB.
BB is a good shout. I would probably slot in BB there because I think like Zika was good in summer, I would say, and also at Worlds. But LNG was largely uninteresting in spring. Like that's the weird one, right? It's like there's so obvious periods. Like Breathe was on RNG before, and then had a slow start on Weibo. So it's like it also like that one you can't slot in there, right? It's like there's just so many holes everywhere when you move past like the top 3. So I think it's just a question of flavor. But I really like the BB shot because I think he had a really good year. Like he had a good MSI, good Worlds. He was good the entire year. Like he
unique
really...
champion pool too. I mean, he played unlike anyone else, which was nice to see.
Okay.
We have to shoehorn him in. Like he needs to be in the top 5, I think, BB.
All right. So Zika out, BB in. So BB, Doran, Keen, and then let's vote. Who gets it here? Is it Zeus? Is it Ben for this year?
I think it's for the year. I think that there's no way I could say anyone had a better year than Ben as a top laner.
Ben was very close to getting MVP of summer as well. Like he was definitely in the conversation. Like Tien got it for LPL, but Ben was definitely in the conversation, and I think was such an outstanding player on BLG throughout that whole split. I mean, throughout the whole year, right? But I think his performance at Worlds was absolutely amazing, as we've already discussed at length on this show. I think he's his MSI. The thing about Zeus is like Zeus. Now we can argue that this may have been a weak point in strategy from T1 because they just blind picked him constantly, but he spent a lot of this year just like blind picking Twisted Fate and struggling. I think he had a great Worlds, but I don't think that the problem with putting any T1 player in any of these conversations outside of maybe Keria, but Keria even had some really rough spots in summer, is that they just weren't consistent enough over the entire year compared to a lot of other players. And I think Zeus falls into that as well.
All right. Okay, there you have it. So our number one winner of the top lane role. Oh, go ahead.
One thing I wanted to just say is you have to think about how a lot of these top laners tournaments ended. Like think about how Keen's tournament ended, right? He makes the flash pick onto Faker, and then his AD carry walks into Skarner ult and he loses the game. Like this is like what he did in his he makes the game winning play.
In
and
his
then they lose the
third
game, and it's like
game ever, he is playing
true.
out of his mind on this champion, and then
he's
he
completely
gets to
one.
lose.
I just like to try to make people view it from the player, where it's like Bin makes like the Jax play at River, they lose the game. This guy makes like the Poppy pick onto Ari that should be game winning, and it's like, oh, I guess Pays walk.
Well, I would say Keen is actually
It's
number
exactly
two
correct.
over the entire year as well, because remember he was actually the MVP of the spring finals because of his game 5 performance in that series.
He completely clapped him in a matchup that was supposed to be fine. It was supposed to be a fine matchup for Zach.
So I think if you're taking the entire year, I would say Bin and then Keen actually, and then Zayas.
Yes. I don't even think there can be an argument. How can you argue for Zeus to be better than
Keen? I'm sure the
T1
fans will find a way.
I just want to add more ammunition into the Bin pocket because I think like his MSI, it's always just like the winners write the story, but his MSI, that was like one of the craziest top lane individual performances of all time, I think. It's like, well, what he did to make that Genji series competitive when Genji was so much better than BDB at that point in time. Like Genji was just so far and beyond better than everybody on that patch. It was like Aurelion Sol, Corki, they were dropping Yon and Karthus ahead of everybody else. They have mastered like they figured out the game on that patch. And Bin actually made it competitive with like his Camille play. Like that entire tournament in terms of how Bin played against T1 too, and like the T1 series that they both won, that somehow everybody forgets too. And I think another thing that is so important, I think that in terms of top lane and LPL, in my opinion, is just far more competitive. And I think the majority of people don't watch LPL, but it's like if you look at the list of top laners that come out of Korea, right? It's like
LCK's top laners this split this year were shit. Like it's not a competitive.
You have Keen, Zeus, and then Doran. King,
and then you have like perfect. Oh,
it's like, and then it's like you look
Clear
at the
like,
list of
okay.
names. List of names in LPL, right? It's like 369, Breed, Zika, Bin. You know, it's like I think just top lane in LPL is insanely fucking competitive.
I mean, even Sheer, like the debut of rookies was really good.
Sheer was really good. Zhao Lao, who was like pretty fucking insane in spring. I mean, we have some top laners over there that deserve recognition.
Shanji had his moments, but
Shanji.
No, it's like for me, I think Bin far and beyond. I think it's just always like the people that write the story are always like the winners are always like representatives. I have to argue. It's like, oh, so T1 won. They are the best players in each role. It's like last year I think was very, very different because Zeus, what he did 2023, he was picking Yon, Jace, Aatrox, was completely body 1v9ing. His role was very different this year on T1. This year it's like he did a good job of like outplaying the dice mechanically, right? And then just being solid and maintaining that. But in terms of what Keen and Zeus needed to do for their team to succeed in terms of the circumstance they're in, because I want to follow up on Dom's example. It's like the Poppy slamming the Ahri into the wall and Ahri getting Skarner ulted is the equivalent of, imagine if Faker steals Rakan ult, ease onto Rakan and charms 2 people, and then Poppy just fucking ults air, misses completely, and just goes into the turret. Like that's the equivalent of that circumstance. That's like
and then T1 loses the game. Yeah.
That's the equivalent,
Yeah. Well, I think the case has been made for Bin. This is probably the most one-sided award we'll give out.
He was good the whole year, including in the finals. Like normally you don't have a position in the finals like of tournaments where both people play this well.
Yeah.
It's always like, oh, this guy kind of outplayed the other guy. Like you kind of, even like winners, losers, whatever, you kind of know who got the best of each other. But in this best of 5, it's like, I don't know, like they showed why they're the 2 best top laners of all time, in my opinion.
All right. Well, there it is. Our top lane Power Spike Award, Bin, Keen, then Zeus, and then afterwards we had Doran and BB. We got some Western representation on in there. You can let us know if you agree or disagree with that one in the comments. Next up, let's move to Jungle. Jungle is interesting because I don't, you look at the two junglers in the finals, Jun was benched and Owner didn't have a dominant year. So I don't think that's the clear front runner. So why don't we throw out some names here? We can go with the MVP of the LPL. I think that one's probably a pretty good take there. And also he played well in the early matches in TN. Who else jumps out?
Peanut baby.
Peanut,
Okay.
Canyon, of course.
Canyon.
Of course.
Yeah, I think Canyon is also another good one. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't being biased here. But I think TN has like a really good case. If we thought about at the very beginning of the season, Milky Way, his star shined so bright. It was so bright at the very beginning. He was the hottest player at that time.
I suggest
Tarzan.
that we could. Are we sure that Milky Way wasn't actually Tarzan?
Yeah, at the very beginning.
Can we combine Milky Way's spring with Tarzan's summer into one super jungler and then just vote on him?
Yeah, wouldn't that be great if only. Is there anyone else that we're missing? So, Canyon, Peanut. I'm thinking
Yoshik.
Owner.
Out.
I sent that message. On my end, I think for me, I would only like for rank 1. I know that even though T1 was slumping, I do think that Owner had a pretty fucking insane year. I think like EWC doesn't matter, but I think he played out of his fucking mind at that tournament. I think in spring he played really fucking well as well when they made it to finals. I think that to get them to even playoffs in summer when T1 was trash, Owner played also out of his fucking mind. I think he had a great
completely
Worlds.
Galactically clapped him in those matches.
He did in those matches. He did in those matches, but when they were really bad, I agree with Yamato. He was the consistent rock that you could kind of hang your head on.
It's like in terms of the summer playoffs, I think Owner was pretty fucking ass. That yep. I agree. Like Owner playoffs and also regionals, that would be like the biggest knock against them. And then for me on Canyon side, it's like it's weird because I do think in the most important games, Canyon plays out of his fucking mind. It's just that like the Kha'Zix moment into the Zin, right? Or like even the finals against How Alive that they lost, I think Canyon got shit for no fucking reason at all. I think that the main knock against Canyon is that I think that his regular seasons are largely like uninteresting. But is that like a problem? Because they're winning anyway. Like there was this statistic about how Genji had like the lowest first blood percentage, and in a lot of those games, Canyon was just like kind of chilling, but it wasn't a problem. So I don't know if I can hold that against him, Like for me, those are the two names that come to mind about first. But I think I would lean to put Canyon number 1.
Yeah, Canyon was the Nidalee meta guy. That was him. He in summer at least, like he had the Nidalee card.
Like he's the reason why like they started losing. They were down to top esports at MSI. And then he's pulled out Nidalee, won a couple games, and then it became like first pickable because he was just so good every single time he played it. So yeah, I don't know. To me, I think Canyon is like definitely the best jungler over the course of the year. And then also like, I mean, I think once again, I like to think about how players go out, Like I always think about how they go out. You think about like his game 1 Skarner, like in the Genji series, no one is saying they lost because of Canyon, right?
No, definitely
the game
not.
for Nidalee, like, I mean, he was playing really fucking well in these team fights. Like when Nidalee's not even supposed to be that strong at that point, in the team fights, he's completely smurfing. So it's like, what can you really say? I mean, he's not the reason they lost again. He's just solo alive, watches everyone die in front of him, and then his game is over.
Even that Drake fight that they won, right, to come back into the game, I was so shocked to see like the damage done. It's like Nidalee 6K like most damage done. I was like, what the fuck? How? At the rewatch, he's like just perma DPSing. It was nuts.
All right. We have now glazed the sub Church of Canyon, but it's time to hear about the nut god from Monty.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just because Peanut actually had an extremely good year overall, and he didn't even deliver, I think, the choke performance that we've come to appreciate from him at Worlds, which was very nice to see. I think that when he's been in a lot of the head-to-head matchups, he has done extremely well. He's often the reason why they're winning early games in the first place. I think he's by far the most creative jungler when it comes to pathing in the LCK. I think he's the most cerebral jungler. I think he is probably the best shot caller in the LCK as well. And the thing about Canyon is that I do agree with you guys, and it's hard to knock him in some of the biggest moments that he really hasn't been that point of failure and has been, in fact, a major carry strength. But there were a lot of regular season games where he was absolutely phoning it in. And I guess it just depends on how much you want to weight those, as opposed to Peanut, who I think was more consistently excellent even in the regular season games.
That's true. I felt like Peanut was more integral to the success of Hanwha Life, whereas it felt like there was some autopilot. There was some autopiloting that was happening with his peers.
I
Kenny
feel
would
bad
like
for
run it
Tian,
down
though.
sometimes, man. It was bad.
Well, I feel very bad for Tian because
Yeah.
like the plague of this top esports roster is like if you look at the average of how they played, then I think top esports was really really good. But if you isolate their elimination series, wherever it was, MSI or even like LPL playoffs like against Weibo or Worlds, it's just so pathetic. And I don't blame that on Tian at all because like even I remember I had to fight off the narratives. So it was like this: they just played against G2 and they lost, and it's like, haha, Yamato told you Tian is a choker. I was like, bro, Tian did 2 camps before his bot lane got double killed. 2 camps. 2 camps. Can we look at the context? What for the love of God? Like Tian was getting so much shit. And
Well, he
really
should have
pained me
just
because
one camped and walked bot. Jeez, he only needs level 2. God.
he should play with TP. He should TP under the tower. That was just it was so painful because I think Tian had a really really good year, and I think he was definitely like the victim of his circumstance. But in the end, it's like you need to get to those games, right? To make a statement for yourself, like Canyon has. So it's hard to let him cross over some of the names that I've
And
been
if
mentioned.
Tarzan
But I
had
think
had a
his
whole
year was
year
good.
of playing, I think he would be in this conversation
Yeah.
too, because his summer split, I mean, he started terrible, but by the end, the brand games were coming through. He was excellent in towards the end of summer.
I mean, even at Worlds, he had some really good games. Like he had the Morgana game, which was really insane. Like he was able to pull out pretty much like all the junglers that you'd expect when it came to the entire year. He was the best brand player. It felt like he could play tanks. It felt like he could play the Nidalee. He has one of the only junglers that had the Nidalee pass domestically. I mean, he was able to pull out the Elise. Like he literally has the infinite champion pool, and he can play like all styles and all champions at a pretty good level. So it's interesting to watch him play. I'm a Tarzan enjoyer. He just didn't have the body of work, right? Like he just didn't have the. I mean, the world semifinals and making it to finals is a great result considering the team that he was on. But he just didn't play in spring and MSI, right? So can't give him anything more than that.
Yeah. Who would be? And anyone from the West. I mean, I guess if you go down the
Inspired?
the list, yeah, it would probably be Inspired. It's not Umpty. Sorry, Umpty.
Definitely not the Ike.
It's not Yike or
I don't think I don't think Razork did enough.
Razor.
Yeah.
So there's your best of the West for the jungle role and Inspired. My MVP again. I voted for him in spring. That was trash.
So what would be our ranking though? We're doing top 5. Is that the
Top
game?
5.
All right, you guys won me over on the Canyon one. I have Canyon trauma from watching too many of his regular season games where he just like invades and then just dies on Sejuani for no reason, and then it's just like a 35-minute game where they try and battle back and outscale.
Yeah, where do we Canyon Peanut
Tien.
owner Tien
Owner.
owner? I think Tien owner.
Yeah,
Peanut
so high?
I
I would
like
have
the
Owner
owner
above
this
him.
year. I will put Owner above, yeah. I think like for me the main conversation is Owner versus Peanut, but I do agree that Peanut, like even at Worlds, was really fucking good. Like the Poppy games against Billy Billy when they got eliminated,
good.
like he was fucking dragging, you know, he was doing good shit. So I can see Peanut second, and then probably I would put Owner third, but I'm easy. I'm easy. You guys can make the decisions.
Yeah. Canyon. Well, Canyon gets the dub. Canyon
For our
Peanut
very
/ Owner.
important and official awards, Yamato.
Yes.
I thought we're
Canyon.
sending them AG1.
Canyon Peanut Owner Tien Tarzan. I think that sounds good. That feels good. Maybe you can swap Owner and Peanut, but you know, either one works there. All right, that is our jungle. We got ourselves about 6 more awards still to go, and as we do, have ourselves a couple of sponsors to shout out, and this time it's from our friends over at Manscaped. Now, fellas, do you want your grooming routine to be a one and done deal? Well, the days of using the same trimmer for your face and your private parts are over. Who would ever do that? Thanks to our friends over at Manscaped. They've come up with the ultimate package to keep your hairs trimmed from 12 to 6, including the Beard and Balls Bundle, featuring the Lawnmower 5.0 and the Beard Hedger, a trimmer for the moneymaker and another for the boys downstairs. You can get 20% off and free shipping with the code POWERSPIKE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off free shipping and the code POWERSPIKE at manscaped.com for the premium grooming experience. Trust our friends over at Manscaped. Now, again, I've used this and there's been danger before. You know, you get, when you're younger, you're a little curious. You're like, all right, I just don't want shit down there. You know, I'm sure Yamato, he's covered in here. That must be difficult. But the lawnmower has been my new best friend, helping me out around the private parts and making sure that I'm safe with 2 interchangeable skin-safe blade heads. You can choose between a precise trim or a smooth finish, and it's waterproof. That's right. You can trim in the shower.
The biggest one is the waterproof where you can use it in the shower is mega. That's the one that's very helpful. Makes cleanup so easy.
That's right.
I've never had the courage before to put a electronic device close to my temple.
It was scary. It was
Manscaped told me to believe her. It's in my temple.
All right. Well, if you want to add the same thing that Yamato has already approved to his temple, to your temple, you can get 20% off now with free shipping using the code POWERSPIKE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code POWERSPIKE at manscaped.com. No more juggling multiple tools or dealing with subpar results. Just efficient, safe, effective grooming wherever you need it. Thanks to our friends over at Manscaped for making it possible. All right. Speaking of squeaky clean, let's move to the mid lane where, that is where the nice clean plays come from. Who are our top 5, or just let's throw out some names. We start with the names first, the nomination process, which is happening officially right now. Obviously, Faker Knight Faker in some sort of order there.
Knight and Chovy, like before coming into
Faker
Worlds.
cannot be top 2. He cannot be top 2. How could he be top 2?
No one giving the world's plays the extra credit it deserves in this award.
This
voting?
Worlds was the narratives coming
Knight
into this world is
Chovy.
Knight and Chovy are the top 2 players in the world. Period. That is the correct narrative that we had coming into this World Championship.
Okay, Knight, Chovy, Faker. I mean, even then, that's still maybe, now that you guys have yelled at me, even that might be a little high for Faker. Do we throw in LCK champion Zeka? When we think about the year, maybe not, but I mean, them winning on a different team.
Zeka did have a good year.
I think so too,
and people are going to want to throw in Caps, right?
Caps as well.
Yeah.
I think that's
very good MSI.
Who else? BDD. I mean, we go down the list. Let's go down the LPL as well.
Honestly, BDD was
is
really
playing,
good.
look who is he playing with, bro. Like BDD is playing with Pure Chic. He's playing with Burial.
The DRX GG.
Playing with the
very
best
washed
player of the
death.
2020s.
The fact that KT almost made it to Worlds is effectively entirely due to BDD.
What about again, I mean, they made a lot of the narrative driven about this, but Jiahu yet again making it to a semifinals and
Oh, dude,
finding a way there.
Xiaohu was shit
Horrible
though
year.
for a lot of the year.
Okay, all right, there.
Absolutely atrocious year. And like Cream popped off. He was in the pocket, but then he just fizzled out, man.
The problem is his
Cream-
MSI was really weak. It was his first international event, but
yeah,
you know, he was pretty underwhelming, I thought, at MSI.
yeah, his spring was pretty fucking good, I think.
What about Yagao?
But that's not enough.
Fucking Yagao. What
A
the
lot of
fuck
fall
did he
from
do
grace,
this year?
Yagugu, bro. Because Yagugu was
Fuck.
based last year. He was so good last year,
Yep.
besides Worlds.
The
Man.
Did you see the picture of him casting the World's Finals? He was in the suit. I think it was when he lost, or they lost, or maybe he was going into Game 5 and the picks after Game 5. He just looked, you know, there's Knight and I'm here in a suit. It was a tough look. It was definitely a tough look for Yagao. All right, let's get this order in here. We've got Knight, Chovy.
This is the interesting conversation though, because I think just based off World's performance, I think you have to give this to Knight.
Yeah.
But I'd be interested to hear you guys' take on this.
I think for
Yeah,
Chovy,
go ahead.
We had
for
Golden
Chovy,
Road.
I think that he hit the highest level of play that like I've ever seen a player hit. Like when it comes to his spring in LCK playoffs, his spring LCK playoffs was like mind blowing to
Oh,
me.
yeah.
Like that was just like I've never seen a player play League of Legends that well at any other point in time in the history of the game. Like it was actually, and like even his like his finals, right? You think about the finals that he played versus T1, and it's like even in the games that they lose, he's like this insane final boss where it's like, oh my god, like is he just
They
gonna
had to
solo
kill the
1v9
Aurelian soul.
Yeah, the Aurelian soul. It's like he might just win the whole fucking game by himself. Then you think about how he put away that finals in LCK, like that Corky performance where he's like flash packaging, like he is like making sure that shit ends on his watch. So for me, I think Chovy was like the most impressive player over the course of the year. To me, like it just feels like he got even better than last year. And obviously, people hate the way it ended. Like I hate the way it ended too. You know, like I wish that he played better in these final games because now like this becomes controversial, right? Like we make this take and it's like, bro, you just like a choker. It's like, no, I just like somebody who's fucking good at the game. Like he's just really fucking good at League. So I think that like maybe you can edge it tonight after Worlds, but I think like Chovy, like there's definitely arguments. Like he was the player of the entire year, right? He was the one that everyone was scared of the entire year. At MSI, he was great. I mean, he's just able to generate such insane advantages on champions that shouldn't have advantages. It was absolutely ridiculous watching how he would lane like Corky versus Orianna. Like he was just spacing Orianna QW, like Faker's Orianna QW. And Faker's like one of the best Orianna players, if not the best Orianna player. And he was just like walking around the QW as Corky. I'm like, can you even like how do you lane like that? But you just dot. I thought that was like guaranteed damage when you play a short range champion. That's why Orianna was good versus things like Corky historically. It's because she was just able to push you out of lane. Like you weren't able to actually walk up in NCS. You'd have to pretty much spam spells. But he was just like, his movement was fucking crazy. And yeah, I mean, I think that he's somebody. Look, if Riot doesn't do this massive change, I think Gen G wins Worlds pretty easily, to be honest. Like, I think that LCK has huge advantage. I think Hanwha Life, Gen G are probably the two best teams going into Worlds if they keep the AD mid meta.
Knight's Corky was very impressive in LPL playoffs.
His was pretty good. But I just think as a team, the way that Hanwha Life was able to like funnel the way Hanwha Life and Gen G funneled the gold into the carries on side lane, I think that this is and their 2v1s were really solid in their iterations with the AD mids and stuff. I think that they would have just been the best team at this World. And I think that if the meta doesn't drastically change, Chovy is just like, yeah, he's the one that's inevitable. He's the one that's unbeatable at this World. So I think there's a lot of arguments for Chovy, but I could give it tonight.
I'm on the Chovy train personally. I'm not gonna repeat all the things you mentioned. It's just I agree there. It's just like when you for me evaluating a year, like I'm not in the state of mind when I evaluate the whole year that Worlds is more important, even though I understand that it is because that's how everything's been shaped. Like looking at the entire just body of work, if I just look at it for the 150 games that they played and the average he set in those, it's just so insanely high. And I have sympathy for the Genji players that had to play with a Lehens and a Pace that played the way they did, because they had like such an atrocious worlds and everything is kind of like connected. And I think that Chovy still had like many good moments. It's so weird because I feel like nobody puts any value on how Genji had to beat FlyQuest in the end. And I think that Keen had to play like a fucking demon. But I do think that Chovy had like important moments, important games there too, because their bot lane was really, really failing them in that series, which made it hard, which presents an opportunity to do more. And I think that both Keen did the most. I think Keen was probably the best performer of Genji. But I do think that Canyon and Chovy really, really had insane moments too. I think a game that stands out is like a Smolder game. He had like the Yon game as well against Top Esports, where he like that fight on mid lane. Like he was just completely in the matrix. And I think in the end, I understand the issue that Genji faced in terms of their underperformance. And I think the main knock towards Chovy, if anything, is that during a World Championship, you need to be nimble. You need to be very, very you need to be able to make switches real time. And I think the class of Chovy, like his level of precision comes through repetition. And I think he doesn't want to walk away from his prep too often. And I think this is where players like Knight and also Faker were willing to like pivot, because in the end, Knight played 12 unique champions. And the adaptation that happened real time at Worlds, you could see the moment where everything switched over, where, Ari is looking very strong. Sylas is an answer. Sylas blind. And then Sylas blind was dominating until the Galio showed up. And doing these adaptations real time, I think, was super important. But this is not Genji nor Chovy's biggest strength. And a big complaint that people have about Genji, right, is like, Chovy is not fighting, whatever. No, this is how they played the whole year. The fact that this team is taking fights
you
that
may
they
not
shouldn't
like
be taking,
it, but this is what perfect League of Legends looks like.
Yeah, it's like there was that fight where Chovy was on bottom wave, and you can argue it's like, maybe he should have sacked that bot wave, move into mid because Akali has no TP, but they just misread the TP situation, tried to contest 4v5, and they lost the game.
Well, they also fucked up their Nocturne ult that allowed Akali to TP in.
And people look at that, it's like, Chovy is joking, doesn't want to fight, only CS, and that drives me insane. So for me, I land on Chovy.
What's so crazy about that is it's like, obviously Chovy is communicating what he's doing, and he's saying, I have no TP, and the rest of his team saying, well, we'll just use Nocturne ult so Faker can't TP in, and then they don't do that right. You know what I mean? So.
Yep.
I feel like we've now made a pretty good argument for Chovy. I did forget about a lot of that. Yeah, we've got the Chovy Knight.
Undisputed second on Knight. Like, that's so close, I think. So close. Because Knight had a good year,
Knight
too.
is the only... Yeah, I mean, he's the only mid laner that... I mean, BLG is the only team that made all the finals and domestic finals, so... Knight was pretty crazy, but I just think that throughout the year, Chovy was better.
Chovy, Knight, Faker, Caps,
Faker's
BDD.
not third. In my mind,
BDD had a better year than Faker did.
I think Faker had one of his, like, it's weird because his spring started so good. Like, his regular split started good, but then it was just really,
his
really
MSI
bad.
in summer was
MSI,
bad.
summer, yeah. He had one of the worst years in
before people start asking us about, well, how could you possibly say, dude, Faker knew Faker wasn't having a good year. Otherwise, he's not hitting his head on that wall in the studio, guys. That means Faker's having a bad year by Faker standards. You see it.
Dude, Faker was having a rough one, man. Like, the break before Worlds, his Worlds was insane. His Worlds was absolutely insane. But I think that it's important to highlight how many games did Faker, like T1, play this year? Like 170? Like, that's an absurd amount of games. And Faker, if you isolate Worlds, how many games is that? Like 18 games, 15 games, something like this. And we're looking at the whole body of work, right? And Faker was definitely like that. You can make a montage of how many level 1 trades he did that just completely lost his lane. Like him trading with Tristana or Koki or Smolder.
It's called the summer split.
You can make montage of how many times she Malphite ulted into enemy team with Tristana. You know, it was a rough year. You know, he started spring well, and that was like super hopeful. But then,
and
with
by the
meta
way,
shift
for
in
all the
AD mid,
people
it was tough.
who think that this is some ridiculous faker slander, it makes his Worlds performance more impressive, you idiots.
Yes.
Like, this was such an insane turnaround. Like, the real story is, holy shit, how well he played at Worlds, considering how badly he was playing in summer.
Does that mean, okay, how far down is Faker even in the top 5? Are we throwing like, I'm just thinking about like Showmaker?
It's the whole year, man. Like, I
Zeka,
think
BD,
Faker deserves MVP
Maple?
of Worlds. That's true. But it's also true that most of his
Maple,
year
what
was
the
not
fuck?
good.
That's your Maple.
Yeah, I was just throwing out other mid laners that have had like local and international success.
I have to say though, it's like in terms of the other names that we could mention, they also have like a Swiss cheese of a year. You know, whether it's Cream or like I think Showmaker was pretty bad, honestly. The majority of the year, I feel like BDD is a good shout because I did think.
Well, the thing is,
he was
BDD
pretty
never
fucking
went
good.
to deep in playoffs or
Yeah.
at MSI or at Worlds, though. You basically are evaluating BDD off its regular season performance, which was very good.
Feels rough. And it's like, for example, I know I am the biggest Rookie fanboy, but Rookie's spring run and spring playoffs was some of the most demonic level of League of Legends that I've ever seen. Like, he dragged his team. Like, if there was anyone that was having like a Chovy-esque spring performance in LPL, it was actually like Rookie. Like, how he dragged that team of absolute bums is nuts. Like, his jungler and his AD was so atrociously bad. They had no business landing so high as they did. Because Photic, and I don't even know what's the fucking name of the jungler. Like, he just makes me angry. Like the fucking Wukong OTP. This guy, bro, like Rookie was nuts in spring, and then like in summer he tried in like the opening part. He was also like just dropping LeBlanc games, dragging his team, but in the end it wasn't enough, and Rookie's performance also fizzled out. But you know, your mental can only be so strong, you know. Rookie was suffering.
Wasn't he like top 5 in like player of the games or man of the matches? I feel like Rookie was like it was pretty top. He was up there. Like, you would see multiple different teams have representation, and then there was just Rookie near the top. I feel like I remember seeing that in the summer split. That's a good shout out. Then what is our list? Chovy Knight. Who?
Is it my like, as I mentioned, the Swiss cheese thing is because like everyone has a Swiss cheese thing, and then Faker has his own Swiss cheese.
My opinion is BDD, but I think it's hard to make that opinion off of a regular season performance when Faker's the MVP of Worlds.
Sure.
Zeka needs to be third, right?
Who'd you say?
Zeka.
Yeah,
Zeka was also egregious at some points in spring. Remember his
Corky was pretty bad.
Oh,
his egregiousness, like I feel like sure he had these bad Corky games, but I mean he got it together for the most part, and he did have like some really he did play well if I remember correctly during that playoffs. I remember Zeka playing pretty well during the spring playoffs, so it's like like sure he had some bad games. He was good. He was good in summer. I think he was like pretty decent at Worlds. Like he was pretty good at Worlds. All things considered, not as good as Knight, but I think also they had draft issues. Also, if you think about how he went out, like that Sylas game, like that was a hard Sylas game into the Galio in game 4, and he actually did perform really well in a lot of the fights if you watch what he's actually doing. I think Cream is also up there for me. I think Cream had a pretty good year, all things considered. Obviously, he didn't have like the best performances in key playoff moments, but the whole team is collapsing. It's like I wouldn't put that on him, and I would say that his consistent level was pretty high.
I think Caps has to be top 5.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how high. Like right now, maybe 4, maybe 3. Like
no, not 3.
I mean, so what? You go Chovy, Knight, Zeka. Like
I mean, I could argue for like Faker as high. I could give him like 4th, but it's not like it's a very Worlds weighted 4th.
Yeah,
it's extremely Worlds weighted 4th, where it's like I'm doing the bullshit that I hate, where I'm like, yeah, we're just talking about Worlds because that's the most recent thing that mattered. But like it seems like that is what the community has like decided as a whole, is that Worlds is all that actually matters. Really.
So yeah, I have been thinking about this a lot because as I guess more of like the storyteller side of League and that side of fandom. When I think about how you guys think about League, it's way more analytical. And if you're a coach, you want to take the performances like that you're going to get 95 times out of 100. Whereas I think when I'm storytelling, it was like when it mattered most, he showed up. And I think that's where the weighting of it comes way more. But I'm understanding and agreeing with you guys more now. If I'm building a team, give me the guy that plays the best 95 times out of 100, and you're giving yourself the best opportunity to win. So I'm understanding that side more, and I understand why fans are also having trouble like seeing your point of
what
view.
I just don't understand is like why, like, we all agree that Worlds has the worst format, right? Like that is like the worst formatted
Terrible.
tournament that is played the entire year. So like the
Yeah.
worst formatted tournament that's played over the longest period of time with the least amount of practice is like weighted the most,
And
like by
the
far.
most surprising and random patch.
Yeah, in a surprising and random patch. It's just like, as somebody who cares about League of Legends, like that is not what I am. Like, I'm not judging. I feel like Worlds is its own thing. You know, like Worlds is like its own tournament where you are tested on a way different skill set than what you're
It's
tested on the
literally the
rest of the
only
year.
times that most of the teams that are there play best of ones.
Yep.
I feel like we're talking. I'm going to use soccer again, but not the World Cup this time. We're talking about, in soccer, you win the Premier League, you win that season based off of the regular season. There's no playoffs. There are no playoffs. It's just, hey, how were your consistency at the end of 38 games? Did you get the most points? Okay, you're the champion. And then Worlds is like the Champions League, where you show up and you got to win. You show up, you got to win, or you're knocked out of the tournament. That's how the Champions League generally
I mean,
works.
you
After
have to,
these
like,
phases.
there are like these grueling playoff, like, dude, LCK has more best of fives in it than all of Worlds. like like one LCK summer split has what, 8, right? Or don't we have 8?
Yeah,
So we have
maybe
8 best of fives in LCK. You have 7 in all of Worlds. Like, these formats that people play, when you look at MSI, there's what, like 15 best of fives or something like ridiculous at this tournament. Worlds is the tournament that it's not only that you have these best of fives that are that there's much fewer best of fives, single elimination, whatever. On top of all this, the craziest part is that they're split up and you're not practicing in between. Every other tournament, you're like, you're scrimming, have your best of 5, maybe one day off, scrim again, and you're just like grinding permanently. So it's so weird for me to like take Worlds and then just have to, like, I don't know, like, why do we have to like write off Chovy's year and Knight's year based off this tournament? Like, this is literally the worst tournament the entire year, outside of EWC, which is like completely awful. It's like best of 3 semifinals and bullshit like this, right? But
it was
when
not
you
great.
look at these tournaments, right, and you look at how Worlds is in general, it's very hard to not view it as like an independent like test. Like, it's not the same test that they're always taking. And for me, that's why like I weighted highly. I still weight it the most, but I think what everyone else wants to do is they want to weight Worlds as like a 10 and everything else is like a 1 or a 2. Like MSI is like a 5, and then like an LCK split is like a 1 or a 2. And that's like your rating for the year. So if you win, so like by this logic, right? If you were to win,
It's just like Harry Potter, Worlds is the golden snitch, and like all the other goals you score just don't matter.
but I mean, it does seem like with
That's
this
a good
rating system,
analogy.
which I said on my stream, right? It's like if each LCK split, each LPL split was a 2, MSI was a 5, you could win both, and Worlds is a 10. You could win both your domestic splits and MSI, and you're considered to have a worse year than somebody that just won Worlds and lost everything else. That's how it seems like most fans interpret it.
Yeah. I mean, I I would agree that is how most fans interpret it, especially if we look at even just, chat brought it up, the LPL, right? Like, hey, they haven't won Worlds in a while. It's dying. It's not going to grow anymore. No one wants to play.
I mean, it's
Uh,
impossible to get people to watch the LPL in general, and it's crazy to me. Is like, you look at this, and even if you were to be like, okay, well, LPL is the second best region, you see like this final and it's like, damn, like but it's like, nope, but they never win. Like that's like now how people have viewed it, right? Because they've lost now 3 worlds in a row. It's like, oh, they never win. But it didn't feel the same because of Korea's dominance early in league. When LPL started winning in 2018, it didn't feel as doomed, I feel like, in most fans' mind as it does right now for the LPL. It's like people thought that LCK would get it back together.
Got it.
And I mean, I think that if LPL keeps teams together, I think that LPL is definitely going to be competing and winning worlds in the future. I don't think this is the last the last LPL victory at Worlds.
They were very close
right?
this year. Very close.
All right, I sidetracked us a little bit with format stuff. We got to get this mid lane list together. Chovy Knight, blank, Faker, blank.
Chovy Knight, I think Zeka probably deserves that.
Yeah. Like in my mind, I would probably slot in Faker and Caps. That's how I would slot
I like
it in.
that. I mean, Caps was, you could only prove, so much if you're in Europe, and it comes down to Caps' international performances, and Caps has had very good international performances. Like, he holds his own.
And also a small tidbit as well, like G2 winter and spring, in my opinion, especially in spring, I don't think they were playing good. Like Hansam was underperforming, Mickey was playing pretty bad. Like Caps had to drag them over the line in a lot of those games. Like it was like if I make the analogy again, it's like if like Chovy had probably the highest peak of any player of all time in spring, like in terms of what he did in those Aussie games, but Caps needed to do some fucking dragging himself. Whether it was like him just farming outside, grinding out, like whatever the game position was in, because they just lost early game after early game. Caps was doing some heavy fucking lifting on G2 to get them to MSI. And obviously at MSI they played pretty fucking well, but before that, like G2 was not looking like great. Like this was when like we were watching the LEC Dom and we were just fucking awestruck about, like we were in pain about like the level of gameplay, and Caps was just dragging them over and over again. So
yeah,
obviously easy region, but still it matters.
It definitely does. It definitely does. I mean, I think that Caps also, you have to consider at Worlds, he got eliminated by the 2 finalists. Like those were the best of 3s that he played. His elimination series were against T1 and BLG.
Yeah,
and they lost to both.
And
like, and that's where I'm supposed to be like, oh, well, then he's garbage, right? What'd you say?
No, I was just saying, like, he like the main issue for the what if for G2 is that he was playing 4 games of Orianna straight, and he wasn't unleashed. And then he had like the Silas game that was crazy. The Yone game, he almost like won that game out of the game state. Like he did really, really well, I think. And he definitely like had good moments at Worlds too, for sure.
Well, I also think that you have to remember that G2 was basically unequivocally a top 4 team in the world at MSI this year.
Yeah.
The format for MSI is very good. I think you'd be really hard pressed to argue that G2 was not the 4th best team in the world. And so if they were the 4th best team in the world, the question is who was doing that? The answer is Caps. And
BB.
We talked about BB as well. And then the question becomes, well, how'd they do domestically? Oh, they won everything. How'd they do at Worlds? Oh, Caps was still good. So I think we do have to consider Caps as a top 5 player. Because otherwise you're attributing a lot of their success to like energy or something like that, being more than the sum of their parts. But I don't think that's true.
They're not NRG. All right.
The power of friendship. It's really just the power of Caps.
Let's move. Oh, so let's make it official. Chovy, Knight, Zeka, Faker, Caps.
All right.
Sure.
BDD
That's
robbed. Cream robbed.
Shout out to Cream and BDD.
APA robbed.
Look, BDD
Holy
was
shit.
great. It wasn't his fault. KT was terrible, but also you need to actually get to the bigger stages to show your shit, I think is the problem with BDD.
That's fair.
Shout out to Rookie as well, bro. His spring performance is legendary. Legendary spring performance. His Aurelion Soul, bro. His Koki games. His Aussie games. He was fucking LeBlanc. Woof. I just, Rookie fanboy moment. Sorry. Continue.
No worries. Chat throwing out Quid and Quad. No.
Honestly, like if APA had a decent Worlds, he'd be in the conversation because he actually had a pretty good MSI. Like if you look at how he played, if you look at how he played versus, and then like even EWC when he played against Faker, like he was like playing pretty well into Faker throughout, but I think it's just Worlds is just too bad.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to AD carry down on the bottom side of the map. I think a lot of candidates here. I'm gonna throw out.
I'm gonna be
throw- I
biased
think-
here and say light.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm
was
throwing out
great.
Guma. I think Guma was the best player on T1 over the course of like the year, majority of the year. So
Really?
I'll put
Over-
Guma in there.
I'm gonna throw out our Uri Bank Gold King. I think Aiming had a lot of responsibility for that team.
It's true,
and did a lot.
actually.
He had a lot of responsibility, and
I didn't think he played that
generally
well
did-
in Worlds, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with
that's
that,
a
which
little
was a bummer.
special.
That was the bummer, but like in LCK,
In summer, he was really good.
yeah.
I mean,
Ezreal.
Aiming is such a Zeri Ezreal Kaiser merchant. If that's in the game, bro, he's fucking in
And
the Matrix, you
Ezreal.
know? Yeah, I said Ezreal Kaiser Zeri. Like, that's
okay,
true, right?
yeah.
I think that he
But
plays
his
those
Ziggs
super,
was
super well.
surprisingly good. Nobody would expected
Yeah.
him to be that good at Ziggs.
Definitely against LNG, like the got competitive there with the Ziggy there in the last fights, for sure.
We got Pays,
Viper.
I know you're not a big
Viper.
Pays guy, but he was really good during the
No.
regular season.
Pays is a janitor. Get out. No. And also, Pays got Gen G eliminated, and also Pays lost to Hanwha. So fuck Pays.
I mean, Elk has to be in the conversation. If we
Elk,
didn't have him.
Sure, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, we did.
Um, Viper, of course.
Yeah, we had him. I would say
I mean, Gala?
Like-
Isn't Gala up there too? Surely.
I don't
I
think
didn't
Gala
like
had that
his
year.
year, man.
Year.
I don't like his year, Carlo. Yeah, fine Worlds, I would say, but
He was good in
very
summer.
uninteresting year.
We can throw this out maybe because of his performance at Worlds and just because
Masu.
rookie year, winning the LCS. Yeah, Masu.
No, his spring was bad.
That was
think his spring
because
was that bad, to be honest.
Busio was bad, man.
Yeah,
They were
Busio
both
Busio
bad. They
was
would just
bad.
lose
He was
games by,
Busio.
by having mistake. They would just have whoopsies in lane and just lose the game.
I felt like that was Busio doing that to him.
I
Okay.
give him the Busio pass too.
Yeah. I think this. Yeah. Anyways, just I don't know if he actually makes the top 5 here, but definitely a shout out for his glow up
I mean, he was
playing
great.
on the edge at Worlds.
Yeah, he was great at Worlds.
There's
But
too many good ADs now to bring in Masu as like the
Yeah.
whole year. I probably at Worlds, I when I look
Sure,
back
at
at it, I
Worlds,
put
yeah.
him fifth. I put him fifth.
he'll get the Faker
Oh.
award for AD carry of playing well at Worlds, but maybe not the rest of the year.
And to be fair, same thing with Jan. Like up until Worlds, like he was playing on the edge over at MSI. Like it
Well,
was.
Yin was good at
exciting,
Worlds too, honestly, no? Like
Yeah, I
Yin was
think he
insane
was.
at Worlds. For me,
uh,
best player on TL by far. Like, not even close.
Yeah. Well, Impact. It wasn't even close. Oh, during Worlds. Yeah.
Oh,
during
during
Worlds,
Worlds.
during
Yeah.
Worlds.
yeah,
Okay.
during Worlds.
I was like, wait a second.
During Worlds, during Worlds.
All right. Let's
Where do we start?
let's parse through. Let's start with. I guess when we name these names, Dom said Guma for sure. I think the only other one that I can think of from the LCK that would be close would be Viper. I think Viper had a really great spring split. When I got to LCK, Viper was the player I was most excited to watch like closely, and he had a very slow summer split. Very slow at the very beginning summer split where I was like, damn, Aiming's the guy. If it's not Guma, Aiming's the guy right now, and Pays is also there. Like Viper was like 4th. So I think that kind of is the knock on him until he like peaked there at second half of the summer split. Yeah. What else are you guys thinking here?
I don't think it's any of the Korean ADs.
Oh,
Because not at number one, because they all had kind of like ups and downs. Like Pays, you could look at for the regular season and say he was good, but he also played really badly in the summer finals and then again
Yep.
at Worlds. You have Viper,
I mean,
like
it
you
just feels
say.
weird to give it to anyone from LPL too, because I don't think any like LPL AD carry, like I don't know, like Elk had pretty weird MSI. I would say like his MSI wasn't that great.
Jackie.
Also, Elk regular
Definitely
split
not
was not like the greatest, I think, both in spring and summer. Like, but Billy like just got away with it. He kind of had like what Canyon's regular split was, but in AD. But then he played the finals against Weibo, and then he was just the GOAT. Again.
Yeah, his summer split was pretty bad. His spring split was good when they were playing perma towards him. He was like,
oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, the Kalista, the usual Shun business for sure. Yeah.
When Shun was just playing in his lane perma, they were just shitting on everyone. You know, like they looked like just the best team in the world at that period. So I don't know. I would say that I don't know. It's very hard to do AD because I don't think there was any AD that was like very good the entire year.
Yeah, Ruler was disappointing before people like mentioned that.
For me, top 3 would be a combination of Light, Viper, Gumayushi. That's like where I land. And then maybe like Elk also belongs in top 3. It's hard. I agree. It's a difficult. Shit. I have a deep respect for Light, man. I think he was grinding out games, and it was funny. Like in the off-season news, there was a rumor like Light wants to keep playing in Weibo, but he refuses to play with Crisp. That was the rumor.
You do have to look at the supports. Crisp is definitely dragging him down.
He's the wild stallion for sure, Crisp.
I mean, I did feel like Carrier was dragging down Guma most of the year, to be honest.
That's true.
Like if you really look at it, it's like there was a lot of times where like Guma could play all the ADs, and it's like there was just a lot of lanes they couldn't play because Carrier needs to play his specific champion. So
how do we do this, guys?
I know. I'm just thinking. I know. I'm thinking just again.
The more I think about it, I think that Elk ends up getting it, but like because of an average level of performance. Like it's because he didn't have like his bads are not as bad as like other people's bad times, and I think that he had a lot of like there was times where he was giga dominant, and he was consistent over the course of the year, for the most part.
Also, Guma, I think if T1 loses Worlds, a lot of the narrative shifts to what about Guma's champion pool issues. And that did plague them. Towards, in summer and towards even in Worlds, right? They figured out ways to kind of get by. But I think we can say T1, if he could play Kai'Sa and Ezreal, this tournament would have been easier for T1 than it ended up being.
I just don't know if he can he's obviously not great at Kai'Sa and Ezreal, but he's also played pretty much his entire career with Carrier, and I wonder how much of that is because he is playing with somebody like Carrier that he just doesn't put the time into like Ezreal and Kai'Sa, because with Kai'Sa you want to just be playing Kai'Sa Rel, Kai'Sa Nautilus, Kai'Sa Leona, and that's just not Carrier. So
I mean, Nautilus is Carrier's most played champ of all time. Used to get it permabanned against him.
He hasn't
been good on it for like 2 years though.
2 years,
pretty much.
Sure.
In the clutch games at the end of the season, I'm not sure if it was playoffs or qualification. I think it was a qualification match. His Ezreal was butts, Guma's. So I don't. Not that that's like that's.
I mean, it's unfortunate because the Kai'Sa in particular actually works very well with T1's play style, but they can't play it for whatever reason. Be great for their style. Be awesome for their style.
I've got Elk, Guma, Viper, Light, blank. I think in that order. Elk, Guma, Viper, Light. Yeah.
I mean, there's some weird AD carries that you want to throw it. Like Jackie Love had such disappointing moments, but he also had like such high highs. Like he's somebody who's like in that conversation. I mean, Pays is probably in that conversation, even though I don't think any of us really like him. Like, I mean, after Worlds, it's like, I don't know. I feel like these were the situations where it's like he just needed to do his job, and they probably could win Worlds. Like if he could just do his job and just clean up
his job, by the way, is the easiest job of anybody on Gen G. His job is literally janitor, clean up team fights, and he couldn't do that.
And to add as well, like the demonic performance that was Chovy was off of the back of, once again, Lehens and Pays really not playing well in those series in spring. Like they had a solid MSI. Like Pays and Lehens were really fucking good at MSI.
That was great in the MSI finals.
Like, that was like their best moment the whole year. But even like the Hanwha Live final series, it's like he just needed to hit with the fucking Canyon 3-man scanner ult, and he just ults into the Yone and dies. And there's just too many moments like that where it's hard to to like be like, oh, he belongs there, because I think he's like the right AD to play. I think when Genji is playing like their style, because you should do little. Because there were many moments where ADs that needed or want to do more were hinting while wanting to do more, like a Jakob or an Elk in the regular split. It's like when they played like their Misfortune or like Ziggs games, they it just looks like they got completely fucking bored, and like they would like win games where they're like 0-3 just dying in the bot wave, you know. That happened very frequently, and it's like I think at least I like ADs more that put their foot down, you know, when it matters the most, you know. It's just in terms of impact and value. I think you really need to seal the deal on moments like that. But what other ADs are we missing?
I think I'll probably make a stand here for aiming here. Aiming had to play with two different AD carries. He's playing with a rookie jungler. Two different supports. He's playing with a rookie jungler. And that team was built around him, and he gets it to Worlds. Like,
it's true. I mean, Summer was very good.
The top laner's kinging. Like, everyone knew what the game plan was against D+.
Bro. Everyone was hyping up Kingin.
He was
going into Worlds. Going into Worlds, I was like, okay, like maybe he's in form. No. Like,
his summer regular, I think Kingin was good in summer regular. His playoffs and regionals was complete garbaggio. Yeah. Take it out. Like, put it in the gelbe Sack in Deutschland. They recycle the plastic and just make the world a better place level, you know? Like we were watching this Dom together. You remember his fucking Camille game? Like, how the fuck did he win that series? It's mind-blowing.
Horrible.
No.
All right.
I can't believe T1 lost the Dom one. Like, that was just so insane. Like,
how to make it? Yeah, how to do it for the script.
How
to do it for the script.
I thought that they were just like, when I looked at the series, I was like, oh, they're definitely just going to T1 is definitely going to get third. Like, whatever, they lost to Hanwha Life, they're definitely going to be the third seed from LCK, and KT will probably take out Dom 1. That was what like the script was in my head.
Yes, I agree with that too.
I cannot believe that Dom 1 was the third seed from LCK. How did Dom 1 get third seed from LCK? They're like by far the worst LCK team. Like, it's not even close. Like, when it comes to like Worlds, obviously.
By far worst Eastern team altogether.
Like, oh yeah, by far.
Oh, sorry guys.
All right, LPL ran a train on Weibo, bro. I mean, sorry, on DK.
yeah.
All right, let's close this one out. Elk, Guma, Viper, light aiming. Yeah, I think that's
done.
I think that's solid. But I think top 4 you can move and match, but those are the 4 that belong.
That's actually the hardest one, I think, because there wasn't a singular player that, or even 2 players that had outstanding, consistent performances over the year.
Sorry, Masu. Sorry, Noah. Sorry, get me out of here, Noah. All right. Okay. 4 more to go. 4 more to go. 6 more to go. We'll breeze through these ones.
We'll go a little faster.
Yeah. But I like how we're dissecting. And again, AD carry did feel like one of the hardest ones. Well, just in case you didn't know, friends, lounge season is upon us, and MeUndies, your favorite company that makes the most comfortable underwear in the world, also makes the coziest loungewear that's perfect for the holiday season. From lounge pants to hoodies, sweats, and onesies, MeUndies is here to remind you that it's never too early to start thinking about gift ideas. What could be better than the gift of comfort from MeUndies? Now, we know that they have a cut for every butt, which includes 10 different styles that come in over 100 different colors of prints ranging from black to all over dinosaurs. Again, we're talking about, fabric cuts, like it fits that way. Versatile loungewear, as well as MeUndies isn't just underwear. They've got a whole big featured collection, including joggers, hoodies, onesies, and more. And they are unmatched with their comfort, with their signature super soft micromodal fabric. It's breathable, it's stretchy, and it's oh so comfy, making it ideal for everyday wear. So kick
also
off your
a natural
lounge
fiber, by the way. It's made out of beech trees. So
I didn't even know that.
Yep.
Damn.
And you know what? They love making sure that you all are satisfied. So if you're not happy with your first pair of MeUndies, It's free. That's right. It's on MeUndies. It's a problem-free philosophy that they got there because they are so confident that you're going to love it. So kick off the lounge season with MeUndies and get 20% off your first order plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/PowerSpike, entering the promo code PowerSpike. That's MeUndies.com/PowerSpike with code PowerSpike for 20% off plus free shipping. MeUndies, comfort from the outside in. Again, trust the guys that make the ball caddy. Done. All right. Thanks to our friends over at MeUndies. Let's move on
Yamato, say
over.
ball caddy.
Do it. Get in there.
Oh, Getty.
There you go. Love it.
Let's move on over to the one that has to cradle the AD carry. It's the support. Who's our best supports for the year? You like
Who's
that
the
one?
ball
I
caddy?
saw that. I saw Yamato like that.
Who's the ball caddy of
Yeah.
support?
Who's the ball caddy of support? Let's throw out the top ones here. Carry up
It's like on
on
Lehen's Delight,
Delight. On Lehen's
Carry
Delight. Carrier.
Mako.
Mako.
I feel like that's a pretty good 5 there. Are we like missing an egregious one?
Mickey
Mickey's
should
normally-
be minimum number 3.
Yeah, I was
That's
gonna
just a
say,
throwback to my tier list.
Boo! If we were in 2023, last year I'd agree with you. Last year I'd agree with you.
like, oh yeah, there it is. We're missing Beryl the Goat, Mickey, of course. Who else? Who else are we? Busio number 1. Okay, yeah. We missed all those. Are we? I think that's pretty solid, and it does feel like we're just mostly cherry picking the guys that made it, right?
Well, a lot of the supports, like, so Carrier, as we said, is interesting because he was like pretty bad at parts of summer. So I don't think he's going to be in the very tippy top of this by any reason. But then you have Lehens, who really struggled in summer playoffs and at Worlds. You have On, who struggled at Worlds and to a certain degree in summer playoffs, one could argue, even though they did end up sweeping Weibo. I do feel it's like, I mean, Mickey was good in the earlier parts of the year. He's good at MSI, but not so much. Very inconsistent in summer.
For me,
Core
I would
had some
say,
good moments,
go
but
ahead.
yeah. I was gonna say Core had some good moments, like his MSI and his spring and summer were like decent, but his Worlds was like not the best, I would say.
Yeah. I would say, in my mind, I think it's like dGon made the joke of supports being the ball caddy, but I do think ADs were kind of the ball caddy. Not now, Elena. I'm talking about the ball caddy. I think that supports had way higher agency than AD carries. I think that's why it was hard to point out like which ADs were the best, because it was like the meta was Ziggs, Jhin, Ashe, a lot of things that just do well under any economy. But for me, the top 2, I think if I look at the entire year, I think undeniably for me it would be On and Delight. I think that in terms of like the volume that they put out, and for the majority of the year, we had like melee versus melee support. And it was just a question of like reading the map and being first in spaces together with your jungle. And I do think that On and Delight drove that the hardest. But in terms of how things were warped at Worlds, in terms of the changes, it's like when I think about what the meta was entire year, it was like Warmog's armor supports, Giga Tanky. In the beginning of winter and spring, for sure, we saw like the Rumble supports and the range supports. And I do think that even there, On was like doing a good job. So for me, like as a body of work, I would put On first, even though his Worlds was pretty like atrocious by his standard.
I think for me, I think I like Delight the most personally. I think Delight was really good. I think that he also had kind of a bad Worlds.
He did.
But I think a lot of that came to like his team not really knowing how to draft. And I think that when you look at what the tournament became in the later rounds, I feel like Hot Life was really off with their ideas when it came to like they stuck with the MF for a long time. They're keeping like their Rel and Gate supports. I mean, Delight Rakan is one of his best champions. They didn't go to that. They let On play it every single time. I think that they should have been contesting the Rakan definitely higher in the series. So yeah, I would say Delight to me, I think, was the most consistent support the entire year. I thought this guy was crazy for the majority of it.
Delight, even if you could say Delight had some bad games, he also had some really big upside games, obviously, And he just has had insane consistency, in my opinion.
Yep. Where do you guys place On? Would On be your second? Because for me, like those two are the top two for me if I look at the whole year. Because I'm willing to give Delight first. I don't mind that as well.
If we're giving Delight like the world's pass, I mean, it's not even world's pass, but like, why are we just not giving the props to Lehens like in like spring Lehens?
Well, I think he's still going to be towards the top, and he was really clutch at times. I mean, you can't ignore a lot of his blitzcrank games and like finals that he was super hard carrying some of these games on. So I think Lehens is up there, but he's just had more. I think Lehens is just he may have had a very high ceiling, but he also had a very low floor at times.
Yep. And I also think that there's degrees of atrociousness. It's like this is a darker shade of black if we want to look at it black and white. It's like Lehens at Worlds was so damn atrocious. I think that his spring playoffs, like that was like my main concern for Genji coming into Worlds. Is like, is their bot lane just gonna be not good enough because of like the competition when it comes to like bot lane against T1 and the LPL teams? I was like genuinely concerned because Chovy had to do magic to drag them over the line. But yeah, they had a very, very good MSI. Lehens got like MVP in the finals, and I think that like makes sense. But like in terms of just how that team was composed, I think that Genji played side lane in a way, like I think that Canyon and Lehens have a very easy game to play with how precise Keen and Chovy are in terms of how they farm side. They do it with so limited information, and they still did it to the point where they were managing to outfarm the majority of teams. But then when they played against How Life in that finals that they lost, I think that Lehens was completely lost on the map, and Peanut and Delight were the driving force behind making sure that Zeka had better conditions. And when he did, he was just pushing Chovy out. So in my mind, I feel like Lehens' job on this team has been so damn easy, even when Genji was at their best. You know, that's my main. And when he was playing bad, he even managed to drag the team down and hurt the legacy of this year.
All right, I appreciate those clarifications and counter arguments. Then I have right now. Do we have Delight 1? Is Delight 1 or is it On?
I think
1?
Delight 1 on 2 is fair, and then you know Lehens. The thing is,
Carrier?
being like MVP of MSI is like a big up for him in spite of some of the other bad performances he had. So I mean, Mako was very good as well.
Yeah. Do you have Mako in front of Carrier?
I mean, Carrier was quite bad a lot of the time.
Yeah,
I think Carrier was one of the main problems, if we're being honest.
Yep. I mean, him like it's weird, right? Because Carrier and Faker were probably the two people that played the best, or like they're up there for sure during Worlds. But they were the
Carrier
worst two players.
Clearly the best support player by not a small margin at Worlds.
Yep. And he was,
and that puts
clearly,
him in top
5.
Yeah. Sure,
that's true. Who did he take the spot from? Core JJ, Mickey X.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think that they stepped up the most, like Faker and Faker and Carrier stepped up the most, but they weren't good for most of the year. Like that was the whole reason. I mean, Zeus got unfairly criticized a lot of the time, where he was really trying to just generate stuff out of nothing when like people were playing bad, and like Gumo was really consistent throughout. I think Owner was pretty good. So it's one of those weird situations where when you look at the whole year, it's very hard to evaluate Carrier as like a top 5 support, because most of the time it's like he just wasn't. Most of the time he was not even close to that level.
Yeah.
I think it's hard though to imagine who he would be replaced by in the top 5. Like Mickey, Code JJ. It's like who comes next? It's like Crisp. It gets a little bit strange and weird. For sure.
Yeah.
It's like the LCK supports. It's like Moham is next. Battle is next.
Oh God, please no.
My days.
It would be Barrow. Oh, man. All right. I've got Delight on Lehens, Mako, Carrier.
Love it.
I think that's solid, yeah. I think that's good, yeah.
Boom. Lock that one in. That is for our support. So we went through the 5 player roles. Now, I can't believe we're doing this one. You're just gonna, Monty. You're just gonna. This is just gonna make people mad.
Look,
This-
I have the very last award is the one to make people happy, dGon. You can
I
see
see.
it.
Yes, okay. All right. This is the one that's gonna make him mad. This is the best team of the year award.
It's not T1 because they didn't win either
T1
either
won
domestic split
Worlds.
or MSI. Worlds is not the only thing that matters. BLG is better than T1.
All right, I already can see the comments. The Golden Road guys, they were on the way. They basically ran all the way through Summer Split. Perfect. So Gen G's in the conversation as well. Oh man. All right.
I mean, both Gen G and BLG are unequivocally better than T1. That's not
Right.
even
Yeah.
a question.
Consistency is unmatched.
and Gen G. Who else is in this? T1 is obviously in top 5.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
like T1s too. It's like they had
third?
a very good fight. Like the finals. was
They
competitive
almost won
against Gen G
spring.
in the spring.
I
Yeah.
mean, that spring final that they played was extremely competitive. It was maybe the best LCK final ever,
Yep.
right? I don't weight EWC very highly, but they did win EWC, right?
I don't
They
weight
did
it
win
at all. Literally, I put 0 weight. Them coming back at a 5K goal deficit in a best of 3 semifinals versus like BLG, like we can't. I'm not waiting any tournament that has best of 3 semifinals in 2024. That's it.
Yeah.
Is it-
Is T1 just third? I think it is. No. Like who would edge them out? It's like top esports can't be.
I was gonna say-
it just can't be.
Yep. T1
top,
third.
T1
would
has
be
to
the
be third.
closest. Yeah.
Really?
Then Hanwha's the other one.
Yeah, I was gonna say Hanwha's probably the closest, but I can't rate an LCK title above a Worlds title. That would be ridiculous.
Yep.
So, I mean, I for me, I think it's probably Gen G, BLG, T1,
Hanwha G2.
Hanwha. The G2 one is interesting.
I mean, right? They were a top 4 team in the world at MSI at that point in
Yeah,
MSI.
it's the fact that they didn't make quarters at Worlds that's really
Yeah,
like
but,
G2.
but it doesn't matter to me. Like the quarters at Worlds doesn't matter. You played against BLG in T1. Like
They had the hardest road. Yeah.
yeah, I mean
That's
they just
fair.
they played against their losses came to Hanwha Life, BLG, T1. It's like you don't get much harder than that.
It's
And that's
literally
number
the
one seed.
teams we have above them in the
Yeah,
in the
yeah, I mean,
rank.
I like
think they
G2
were-
there. I like G2 there. Yeah.
All right.
I think we have our 5, but what ordering do we put them in?
I have Gen G as the best team. I mean,
Yeah, I
they were
think
just
Gen
the best
G-
team for like 80% of the year, and that's what we're going off of, right? 80% of the year,
Yeah.
they were the best team.
And it's like, sure, BLG won the domestic splits, but MSI was won by Gen G, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, Gen G was
Alright.
the team from Korea all year. No one was talking about T1 in August. No one was saying T1 is better than Gen G, right? Like
For
everyone
sure.
was like, yeah, Gen G is like they're just gonna dominate. Everyone thought that they were gonna guaranteed win LCK again, so that would have been 2 titles. And I mean, I think they were just the team this year.
I would say if you want to argue for Biddy Biddy first, right? It is that Gen G lost the finals against Hanwha Life and also the World Championship, right? It's like Biddy Biddy was just better at the World Championship. So I can definitely see the argument for, but I do follow the logic of like the majority of time in terms of like how we conceive the teams. Gen G was the big dragon at the end of the cave, and I guess it's just the period in summer, just because you don't have international competition. Maybe it's a little bit harder to measure, because I did think when Billy did the swap over to Wei, that I like just looking at how they played, I felt like Billy was better than Gen G. But that's just like eye test things, right? Because
Yeah.
Gen G definitely, like, they were winning, grinding out their games, but referencing back to what we said about Canyon, right? It's like they did have like, they were just kind of playing and just grinding out the games. Oh, 4K behind. Okay, let's just fucking play well now, and then that's it. But can we fault them for that? Because in the end, they did have a crazy record. So it's a weird thing, because on the other side, Billy did the same. Like when we look at some of the series that like they dropped some series, right? And it's like, what the fuck are you doing, BW? You just don't care. And it's like Genji on the other side is like fucking getting perfect game by Damwon, you know? It's like, what the fuck is happening, you know? So there's definitely some flawed moments. So I can see the argument for Billy as well. But I lean Genji too.
To me, Genji beating them twice in best of fives over at MSI also is like another extra notch. Yes, it's different. You know, the roster changing that was happening in summer happened for BLG, but like I can only grade the roster that BLG played with at that time against the same roster that they played with at that time for Genji, and Genji won twice. So, and Bin did have amazing performances too at that moment. It was their best punch at the time. So it felt like, okay, yeah, that little bit of edge does bring it over to Genji. So I've got Genji, BLG, T1, Hanwha Life, G2. I think there's chat was saying like disrespect to Weibo.
No.
Fuck Weibo. I will disrespect Weibo forever.
All right. Well,
and they made semis.
They did. They made semis. They were third in championship points, even though
it's also the whole year though, guys. It's the whole year.
How can G2 be above FlyQuest?
Oh, it's painful.
Told you this was gonna hurt.
These conversations are just literally these are the ones that get everyone mad. You can tell
we are
while you're having them
on a minefield right now, bro. We're just moonwalking.
But it's like the thing is like I can like hear the arguments like come from idiots like as we go, and I'm like, an idiot's gonna say that.
The crazy thing is that we are actually having to weight worlds extremely heavily to get T1 into third place effectively.
Yes.
And also their spring. Like I think their spring really matters.
Yeah, the spring does matter.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, that's true too, Yamato. All right. Well, that's our list. Genji, BLG,
top three
T1, Hanwha Life. I think that's and an EWC title. You know, it's all hardware.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, that is our support and team awards. So now we've got 4 more to go for you. But before we do, we got another sponsor to shout out, the homies that we talk about all the time and have been a partner with us for such a long time, to the point where Yamato had traveled across the world to try it on out.
Fuck them.
That's right. It's our friends over at Factor. Now, I'm not sure if you've noticed, but the days are getting shorter, so your to-do lists are not. Damn, that sucks. But you can power through those busy days with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. From breakfast to dinner and anything in between, Factor has easy, nutritious options to keep you fueled and feeling your best. Whether you like your routine or you enjoy mixing it up, Factor has you covered with 35 different delicious meals every week and over 60 additional convenience options you can add to your box, like keto cookies, pressed juices, and smoothies. Don't let shorter days
protein
slow you
IDC?
down. Yeah.
What'd
What?
I think I DC'd.
No, we can
momentarily.
Hear you.
Oh, you good.
You're good.
All right. Well, Factor has you covered with 35 different delicious meals every week and over 60 additional convenience options you can add to your box, like keto cookies, pressed juices, and smoothies, and protein shakes. There we go. Boom. Don't let shorter days slow you down. Stay energized with America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service. Yamato, how good was it when you got the opportunity to taste some Factor?
Oh man, Dom, he slammed it in the microwave, and then like I was away, and then he came to me. He's like, I just cooked this meal, and I was like, damn, you cook for me, man? I ate it. I was like, Dom, you're a master chef. And then he revealed it to me. He's like, this is a Factor meal. He's like, I was like, damn, let me order some up. And it's like, turns out they don't have them in Germany yet.
They have them in Belgium and the Netherlands now, but not
Sweden. Bro, I've told my friends to order it. They've ordered up in Sweden, and I'm just here factorless. I'm just waiting.
Well, don't be factorless. Head on over to factormeals.com/powerspike50 and use the code powerspike50 to get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next month. That's code powerspike50 at factormeals.com/powerspike50 to get 50% off plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active, thanks to our friends over at Factor. I mean, we've talked about Factor Set for such a long time, but again, when we think about products that we use all the time, Factor is the one. Dom always talks about it, uses it part of his daily meals to the point where even Yamato wants it wherever he can get it. But you can now. All right. Let's move on over to the participation awards. And what do I mean by that, friends? It's time to see who our best Western players are. And we're going to our top 5 players from NA and top 5 players from EU. Let's kick things off with NA, the team that, never fails to make it out of the Swiss stage at Worlds. That's weird. It doesn't seem that hard for North American teams. So, yeah, I mean, if we averaged them out, and we weigh Worlds pretty heavily, the NA players would rate higher than EU players, but that's not how we do it here. So let's get to it. NA players, let's list them off. MVP was Impact. Inspired had an MVP caliber season. Quad and Quid with their glow ups. Quad was MVP in, or Quid was MVP in the spring split. Yeah, it was. It was. The glow ups from the bot lanes. Both.
I mean, some might say that Inspired was robbed in spring and so should have been double MVP, and also is definitely the best player in North America.
Some would say that. Whippo as well had himself a World's glow up. Masu, throw that one out there as well. Is there anyone from else 100 Thieves that I'm missing? Ayla, shout out to Bill.
Oh my days.
Oh my God, Ayla, man, please.
Sorry, Bill. River. I mean, River again held a lot of shit together over there for 100 Thieves. All right, where do we want to go through to parse through this? I don't think there's anyone else outside the top 3 teams that we need to shout out.
I mean, it's definitely Inspired. There's only one answer. It's Inspired.
I think it's Inspired. If we're going North American born player, maybe we go like Yeon or something. But yeah, I'll go Inspired.
Yeah,
best player for sure.
I'm saying okay. Number 1, but let's get the 5. We've done 5 for everyone. Inspired. Impact?
I think Yeon had a better. I thought Yeon was really good over the course of the year.
Agreed, yeah. There's something that is out of my memory a little bit is like the spring split, because I didn't expect TL at all to bounce back, and even in playoffs in the beginning they looked like themselves, but then there was just some switch, and then it just turned into a demon,
the monster,
a force to be reckoned with. It was.
You guys liked Yeon.
Switch was.
You guys liked Yeon. I thought that the glow up that he had the big glow up at World. So, but
MSI.
you think sorry. You guys think that would have been more than Core JJ's consistency over the course of the entire year,
or APA's I think glow up as well. I mean, the revenge tour against Pioshik's slander, that was pretty impressive to me too. We didn't have a lot of players that would talk the shit and back it up. We just have a lot of players that talk the shit and then go 0-6 at Worlds.
I would say in regards to Yeon specifically, I do think what stood out to me specifically about Yeon was that I think in the comparison to Hansama or Noah, or when he had positions to play, he fucking played. His items actually were relevant to the game state. And I remember his Lucian games, he was actively dashing forward, posturing forward, and this was the biggest fucking change up ever. And that was so outstanding because of what we've seen from the other Western ADs. I was really, really missing this, and I felt like gold leads were super, super relevant on him, and moving from summer playoffs into MSI and also his summer, I feel like he had the one thing nobody else on TL had, and that was a wide range of champions that he could play. I think the biggest knock against TL was that every single player on that team plays 3 champs except Yeon. I think that he could play the Kalista, the Lucian, the Ashe, and he had a very, very
Paris.
good range, and I think that's like super, super impressive in my opinion. Because even at this Worlds, which is super important, I think that he was by far and beyond better than everybody else because nobody else could deal with the meta shifts. Because I think Impact, he got his name and he got MVP, rightfully so, because his whole champion pool was designed around 1v2s, which is, of course, that's a part of the game in terms of your draft. But TL were masters of the lane swap ahead of everybody else, and I think that put a lot of value in the hands of very experienced players in Code JJ and Impact, because that's their playing field, right?
What do you think, Monty?
I mean, so I mean, I never rated Quid, I think, as high as other people. I see the Yun argument, but for me, a lot of it, that was the glow up from the Korean boot camp. And I agree that he did. I mean, especially like he looked like a very different player. Especially his Lucian games, which is a champion notorious for not being able to be used in NA. He looked significantly better. So I I see that angle, but I do want to consider the fact that there was actually like a spring split as well, right? Um, and I understand that some of the knocks against Team Liquid can be that, obviously, like, or Core JJ, sorry, that they could, that they were like, he was not very consistent at Worlds, and they didn't do super well in spring overall. Right. This was the MSI was really like a big turning point, I think, for Team Liquid. But, you know, for me, I like Core, but I understand like the philosophy behind Yun having the larger effect when Team Liquid was at their best, right? If he doesn't get a lot better, then maybe Team Liquid doesn't do as well as they might have otherwise. So, I mean, we have to mention probably somebody off of Cloud9 at some point in time, right? Like, surely they did have
in the top 5.
I don't think so. Like,
Oof.
I don't, maybe
Did they win a
maybe
single best
Blabber?
of 5?
Like we have, I mean, they won a best of 5.
Yeah, they beat 100 Thieves, and I mean,
Oh, yeah.
they won in spring. They beat 100 Thieves in spring.
Yeah, I mean, you go down that roster: Fudge, Thanatos, Blabber, JoJo, Berserker, Vulcan. Like maybe
Yeah,
Blabber.
not for me. I mean, I would go like most players on
Yeah.
FlyQuest and TL over them. We go
Sure.
for like the full year.
I think the only other player outside of those two is River, even though Quid got the MVP. Like, you might go River, but
Well,
I
it's
don't know.
also how much you weight Worlds, because Masu did look extremely good at Worlds. Like, it's just a question of how much you think spring split would hold him back, because he grew significantly. I mean, is that the MSI performance?
I think he was good at MSI too. I think that was on Busio, like kind of running it down, but I thought Masu was pretty clutch at MSI, even though they only played a couple games.
But my gut call is Inspired first, and
Yeah.
then all TL players without Umti. That's my top 5. If I evaluate the whole year.
It's not bad, actually.
It's not bad. That's kind of what I have written down.
Because like Flag was really good, like in the final best of 5 or playoffs, and they had a better Worlds. But it's like they had a very tumultuous year, like with their MSI, how they ended in spring, roster changes, and respect
the
to that.
thing is,
But we
like,
are evaluating like performance, right?
Their side lanes were so flippy in spring that it felt really hard to evaluate those players as being consistent throughout the whole year. I think obviously like FlyQuest got to a very good place by the end, but considering we're talking about the whole year, like Liquid was definitely more consistent across the whole year.
I am good with Inspired, Yon, Impact, Core, APA. I like that. Maybe I keep thinking like, oh, you have to throw Bippo or Masu in there.
Would you put APA above Core though? I think that would be the question, because APA had some really high highs.
He did, but This is one of the ones where I'm going to rate Worlds a little higher, and I think he shrunk during Worlds.
I mean, so did
And-
Core though.
So
So
did Core, yeah. And
Yeah.
also another knock at Core would be that, like, I think for the majority of spring and also summer before Busia got the Mythy boost, there were no other supports in North America. Like, support was a complete joke in North America, in my opinion. Like, most supports, if it wasn't like Code JJ was actively moving, pressuring sides, keeping up with the flow of the game. The other supports are just like Nautilus, like auto-attacking mini waves on mid, like fucking Vulcan and Busio. Like, they didn't know what the fuck they were doing, these guys. Like, support role is clapped in North America. And God bless it, Busio's playing fucking good now. And I think Code JJ definitely, like, in the conversation of the whole year, like we mentioned him, like he's top 7, top 6, you know, like he had a very, very good year. But it was tied to, once again, you know, the simplicity of being in tune with your 3v3, pressuring, you know, and defending the dives, doing the super, super well. Code JJ was very, very good at this. And I think he belongs in the pile of players that suffered at Worlds because of the shift up, the removal of Warmogs, and it's like the game dynamic being very, very different because you couldn't just put your body everywhere you wanted, you know?
I think when if we finish the point here on APA and Core, I just go back to I think it was you, Dom, but it might have been just me, but I feel like we all talked about it, to finally have a North American mid laner that can go toe to toe with the best of the world, and you feel like they're just not getting their shit shoved in, or they're waiting to just farm and lose. Yep. And it was like during MSI, like that kind of hope and that feeling from APA again, who was still at that point within his first year of playing top level League of Legends. Because he got to go to Worlds last year, but he got something in the middle of the split because of how hairy. And you know, so I think that's the impressive part, and I'll give him that, because we were, you know, it was just cool to watch, cool to see him grow like that. So yeah, let's go with that. Inspired Jan, Impact APA Core, boom. Yeah, I feel like that'll have some talking points from some FlyQuest fans, maybe. All right.
Well, these Quad didn't actually play in spring, so.
Well, I mean, I could potentially throw Masu in there.
Yeah, I
somewhere.
think it's Masu. Masu or Whippo are the ones that I think.
Because I do think Masu, like his spring was not great, but he was like, I mean, he's a Giga rookie, right? Like a real rookie.
Sure.
And then after that, it's just, you know, he's playing and he's good after MSI, right? Like his spring was not good, and then MSI was good. Summer was pretty good. Worlds was good.
Yeah.
I would find a place for him in there personally, but
who would you remove?
Core or APA?
So I would probably do it differently. Like maybe I remove APA because I think APA was really struggling pre-summer or pre-spring playoffs. Like he was having like a lot of like really bad games. I think that would be something that to hold on to. And then I just don't think he played close as well as he's capable of at Worlds. Even like summer finals, it felt like he was like, you know, he was getting caught. It just didn't feel like he was playing as well as he could be. But then also like I'm not sure, because there's like Impact, where like I don't know if Impact is guaranteed 3. He was like super good in summer, but he wasn't that good early spring. And then yeah, I mean, I don't know, like his Worlds is obviously really disappointing. But yeah, I mean, I would probably remove APA and throw Masu in there.
I don't mind that, yeah. I can admit I missed the majority of spring regular split. Like I was in KC and then I wasn't in KC.
Yeah.
And if I'm coaching, I am not spending time watching North America, I tell you that much.
Yep.
Like I need to keep up with LPL and LCK. So I trust our resident North American.
It could have been a more realistic. It could have been a more realistic points to analyze EL compared to LPL and LCK with that KC team. Should have just went to Socket and been like, Socket, you need to play. Oh, wait, am I back?
Yeah, you're back. We never leave.
Oh, okay.
Never
You guys
left.
can hear me the whole time, because all the cameras go out for me.
Yeah, we can hear you the whole time.
You're on the whole time.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe Socket, instead of modeling himself after a rookie, needed to model himself after APA.
Maybe. I will just move on.
Oh, abstain.
I love it.
He will not be
love
baited.
Yamato. Come
He will
on.
not be baited.
All right.
Nah,
Maybe.
this man deserves some peace. You know, he deserves some peace. Second, so
Yeah.
All right. We got
Is
inspired.
he still
Jan
trying to
and
play
back
competitive, or
four,
what is he
Buster.
actually doing? I have no idea what Slacken is doing because he didn't
I
play
think
anymore.
he's out, man. I think he's out. Like,
Think he's done.
yeah, I think the whole image, right? It's like why move on? It's like Casey and ERLs is like the same as like T1 in like the major regions, right? It's like if you move from KC and move to a different team, you're gonna lose the buzz. So now he is still a KC legend. If he moves to a different team, you kind of remove that from yourself. It's like think about the T1 players that left T1 and then people forgot and they are no longer, they don't have the juice. And then there's the players that didn't, you know, like for example Wolf, he just started streaming. That was based, you know, made a career out of it, you know. I think if I was him, I wouldn't fucking go to like some random ERL team to just play.
Wait, Wolf definitely played on another team.
He did?
Definitely, yeah. Wolf,
Really?
didn't he play in Turkey?
Did
Wolf
he?
played in Turkey?
Oh yeah,
he played for
in Turkey.
Supermassive for a year.
Damn.
What the fuck?
I was like,
Oh, shit.
I was like, okay, this is
Amazing. I actually didn't know that.
I had
Yeah.
no idea, bro.
Bro, they sent him to Turkey. I know he was bad towards the end, but Jesus, I didn't know they sent him to.
yeah.
fucking
Think
Turkey.
about
damn.
those fates, right? He went to Turkey, picked up the paychecks from 100 Thieves and EG a couple times, and then
Wow,
called it a day.
Wolf couldn't even get the NA retirement paycheck. That's rough.
Damn,
yeah.
that is crazy.
They had to pick one. They had
Super
to pick one.
massive. Damn. That's crazy, Laura. Well,
All right.
to be fair, I bet he regretted it. Oh, unless he got paid a lot of money.
All right. Well, with that, you know, Turkey's part of Europe, so let's move to the best EU player. Since it's you know, the MENA, right? This is MENA. What is it? EMEA. EMEA. There we go. I got the acronym
EMEA.
correct.
Bro, we just get the easy out of the way, right? Caps, BB, 1, 2.
Yep, that's it.
Yep.
Easy. We already talked about them, so that's done.
And now we have 3, 4, 5.
Razork.
Do we
So
throw?
Fnatic at internationals was so ass.
Yeah, EU at internationals was so ass. You have to pick.
Yeah.
Yamato, you have to select amongst the ass right now.
But we're putting them above
that's so
G2
bad.
players, right?
Super. We throwing in who we throwing in for Mad Lions?
He was bad majority. Like Mad Lions was bad the majority of the year. They lost more games than they won. Like they were just consistent losers.
But Mirwin played weird stuff in top lane.
Yeah, they won one best of 5. Like they literally peaked by winning one best of 5 against G2. Like that was their whole year, right? Like then Winter Split where it's like Adam like got benched. It was like fucking weird. What the fuck is going on here? They get second place. They go to 5 with BDS with a sub with Jetax. Then the next split they're fucking horrible. The split after that they're even worse. And then they win one best of 5, lose the rest of it, and they get eliminated like 16th fucking place at Worlds. And I'm supposed to like rate this year and be like, nice, I got to see them win 42% of their games or 45% of their games, whatever the fuck it ended up being at the end of the year. Now I have to pretend that they're good all year. Fuck that, bro. Fuck that.
All right, like Hans Sama is a player that had like you know, the worst part is of course like the issue with Hans is that his mistakes are so ugly that they just cover up all of the pages of the biography of Hans Sama's year.
But everybody has to respect him because it's like you feel every team feels like they have to ban Kalista and Draven, right? I mean, he draws a lot of
Really. They stopped banning that, didn't they?
They started banning Ashe and MF against him specifically, right? There was always like 80 bans that came through. Because like G2, their whole playstyle revolved around we need to be winning bot so we can push, so Mickey can do whatever the fuck he wants.
There's always the threat of it though. I understood what Monty meant. I'm looking up the stats now though on it. Let's see. Okay, season. Boom.
Because my inclination tells me Hans Sama 3, you know. Like I'm just arguing about against myself in my mind, and the MSI moments do stand out there because it's like Mickey I think that the majority of his games he was playing bad, but then there was like the regional playoffs where he played insane,
Or the
like
poppy
MSI
games
where
at
he played,
MSI.
yeah, where he just completely went bonker ballistic. But the majority of the year, he kind of like, I'm gonna int here together with the Ike.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could argue. I think unquestionably Mickey was the MVP of LEC in 2023. But I think if you look at this year, it's hard to argue that like Fnatic did make it to finals, did make it to international tournaments, and the major reason was Razork, right? Are we going to argue that Razork isn't the best player? Like Razork deserves to be top 5.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah,
And then I think the question is too, who on BDS? I mean, I thought Ice had a very good season on BDS.
Yeah. I think that's a very good point.
It is tough.
It's like, do we put Razor? Do you guys like what do you guys think about Hans? Because I spoke about Hans. I'm curious what you guys think about Hansi.
I thought he was good. I think he was generally good. I think he was actually better than he was last year. He seemed way more consistent to me. Like his MF was really good. His Ashe was really good. You know, like he always had the ability to play Kalista, the ability to play Draven. He would start pulling it out. He had some really good games where they ended up losing. Like he had a really good series, I believe. Was it against Mad Lions when they ended up losing that? Where I felt like he was just playing really well throughout, like carrying games that looked really hard. So
that's crazy.
Yeah,
Is Kalista's 14-3. Like he played it 17 times, and Draven was only 5-4. So not. I mean, it's a pocket pick, but it wasn't like a surefire win.
It just draws a lot of bans, though, is the thing. And the thing about Han Sama is that he doesn't necessarily have the best champion pool at times. I think his lack of desire to play Zeri hurt the team at times this year. But he does warp draft.
It's EU Gumayushi.
He does warp drafts in very interesting ways. And I think that's a really actually big PowerPoint for G2 in the drafting is that teams always have to respect some of his lane bullies and if not ban them, at least play as though they are going to be picked. And that is a big strength, I think, of G2's.
Do we put Hans or Razork on 3 then?
I would put Razork on 3, but if you guys want to put Hans on 3,
I would put Hans on 3. I would put Hans on 3, Razork on 4, and then 5. Irrelevant.
Oh God, please.
All right.
Oh no, you're trying to just kill Yamato.
Oh, you're kidding me.
You're hurting Yamato, man. Why are you doing this to Yamato?
I thought the Ice shout was pretty damn.
Dude, Ice was really consistent.
Yep.
Like
Alvaro was really good for a long period of time, and then he just started kind of one-tricking Rel, and everything went to shit.
Yeah.
The thing about Ice that I thought was interesting about BDS is they started the year playing him on like pick or engage in Dash Gen Varus, like the conditional engage ADCs, and then they moved him into like the crown shot role later on the hyper carries, and he did very well in both situations.
What about Marcoon? Never mind.
I think Larson is the better than Caps.
All right, we got Caps, BB, Hans, Razork, Ice. Boom. That was not as painful as I thought it was going to be.
Are we ready to boom that? Do you have something to throw in with Dom?
Nope.
I threw out the Mad Lions, right? BDS is getting their
it's
shout
about
out.
the whole
Fnatic's
year,
getting
though.
their shout out.
Like,
it's about the whole year.
Yeah, I mean, there's things where it's like if you want to not over prioritize the like big moments and you're looking at the whole year, people like Noah had a good year for the most part, but then his fucking failures were like, it's just too hard to make. I don't want to make that argument for Noah, even though I think there is an argument. Like if anyone wants to make the Noah argument, I'd be down to hear it, but I don't want to be the one that's like tying myself to Noah, like arguing for like a 5th place for Noah, you know? It's like that's a good point, but it's like a point that somebody else. It's like when that what's his name, Kier, whatever his name, when he was like when he said Kier, when he was like, oh yeah, this T1 like year was a categorical failure. Like obviously it's hot take point made, so like he's trying to have like a really hot take, but you're supposed to just make a point where it's like actually their year wasn't as successful as like, you know, other years. It was a pretty rough year overall for T1. That's the point he's trying to make. like that is something that I can listen to that argument. And I'll be like, yeah, it's the point is more important than the hot take is not supposed to be the point, right? So like the point that he made was like, yeah, I mean T1's year, it wasn't as great as some other years that we've
T1
had.
obviously would have preferred to, win everything.
Yeah,
Duh.
like it was a lot of times that where it was,
the other things don't matter. Else again, I'm aside.
but it's like I don't want to be the guy that's making that point. Like I'll let Kire make that point. I'll let somebody else make the Noah point, but there is an argument for him to be top
I
five.
love
won't make
that point,
argument.
though. I mean, it's a good point, but that's why Hot Take Point made is a banger show. Because you have to understand the purpose of that show.
Oh no, that was literally an IQ test because I'm not even on the show. I have no ties to the show, and I'm watching it, and I'm literally just seeing like the T1 fan IQ test be failed live by so many people. They're like, what? Like, you think T1 sucks when they won Worlds? How much of a hater are you? It's like no. Like they can't even get to the point where like the premise of the show is to have a hot take that seems ridiculous, and then you make the point that is like that's the important part. The point is like what you're trying to make, where you get the hot take to bring them in, you make the point to like get something across that you think is under talked about in the community. But yeah, that was just completely over most people's heads. So
also, it's supposed to be like satirical. It's supposed like it literally. The whole purpose of that show is to craft a take so hot that the other people on the show can't touch it. You know what I mean? Like that's the whole point. The Counter-Strike fans understand the purpose of this show. T1 fans, they're struggling with it. They're struggling with it.
Well, I mean, they don't even. They're so angry about like just the title of the hot take. They don't even go into like. So what is like the point of this show? Like, they don't want to like dissect. They're like, oh, this is just a show where everyone just makes points, and his point was that T1 sucks, and he's obviously wrong. So, fuck it.
Those T1 fans, they really didn't want to win more. If you went back in time and you asked the T1 fans, they're like, yeah, we don't want to win spring, and we don't want to win MSI. We don't want to win summer. We only want to win Worlds.
And if you haven't, you should watch the show. You'll learn about framing and satire. Boom. All right. Was there one more? Jackie's. That was the last one that I kind of came up with, but that's a stretch. All right. Caps BB, Hans Razork Ice. Let us know what you think about that one. I feel like we got that one right. Two more to go here in our final episode of the year as we're giving out our awards. But also, we got to remind you about our friends of the show. Last one as we knock this one out. It is our friends over at Mando. Again, you've heard us talk about the personal hygiene, and I've talked about personal hygiene on public transportation here in Korea. Well, Mando has definitely helped out. I actually used it over at my girlfriend's place, and we have like little wipes. I had like a soccer game, and then afterwards we dressed up like Team Rocket, and we had to go straight from the soccer game to Team Rocket. So I used the wipes to go ahead and wipe down my body to take out a couple of those things there, as well as some of the whole body deodorant, which is safe to use anywhere on your body, your pits, your packages, but also the feet after soccer. A little stinky, but definitely having the whole body. Yes, definitely. You can also get the Grundle. I said packages, but yes. What area is it again, Yamato? Can you get us in there?
The Grundle is the bridge that connects the rod with the region of Nether.
Yep. That's below the ball caddy.
Yes.
That's right. The taint.
And so as you're going from place to place and visiting friends and family for the holiday season, make sure you're smelling nice and great with their clinically proven 72-hour odor control. So it's great for long days and nights as you're watching, sports games, football, basketball with family, in-laws. Mando has you covered, and new customers can get 5% off a starter pack with our
$5 off a starter pack.
$5, yes, $5 off the starter pack with our exclusive code and link using the code SPIKE. That's right. Use the code SPIKE at shopmando.com. That is shopmando.com, and use the code SPIKE to get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. Thanks to our friends over at Mando. Again, making sure that you smell great anywhere you go.
Yeah, and the starter pack is great too because you can just try a bunch of their products and see if you like it. So it comes with a solid stick deodorant, the cream tube deodorant, which is the rub-in one, like the lotion, which I've been using more than anything else. Actually, I really like that one. And you get 2 free products like a mini body wash or deodorant wipes, and free shipping. So it's a great way to just kind of test the gamut of Mando's offerings. Get yourself some bourbon leather; it smells nice.
The bourbon leather is great. And of course, all of these things are made aluminum free, baking soda free, cruelty free, dye free, and vegan. It is vegan. So, you know that.
Vegan free as well.
No, it's just vegan. It's just
Oh,
vegan.
never
It's
mind.
not vegan free. It's just vegan. But all
It's not
these
vegan
products.
free. There's okay. All right.
Yeah, it is vegan. So there you go. All right. Anyways, one more time, use the code SPIKE at shopmando.com. That is shopmando.com. Support our show and tell them we sent you. Don't let BO keep you on the bench. Smell better naked with Mando. All right. 2 more awards. Let's go to it. This is a conversation, I think. We can go to individual player of the year for the 2024 League of Legends season. We've kind of gone through like all the different roles. Now we got to decide which is the most important one here. I think, Bin would probably be up there.
That's my guy.
as one of the top.
I like Bin. I like Bin as the player of the year. I want
Bin
this
is
year
my
to be
guy.
remembered for Bin. He had
Chovy-
crazy games. Like, come on.
Chovy had crazy game too, and a crazy successful year.
But
And beat
was
Bin
always
twice.
But Bin was always good. That's the thing, is like there was some moments where Chovy wasn't good at the end, but there was no moments that it felt like where Bin did not play well.
I think what's crazy is like, sure, we've talked about how Chovy didn't necessarily step up at Worlds, but even in losing, Bin did look amazing, right? And I think the question is, do you say, okay, well, when Chovy was on the biggest stage, did Chovy play his best compared to when he was at Spring or at MSI, right? Bin also, had arguably more domestic success, right? I think there's an interesting argument to be made for Bin, for sure. And it's only possible post-Worlds, right? Because coming into Worlds, he would have definitely said Chovy, but after Worlds, that's what would tip it into Bin's favor, I think.
I think just in terms of just his MSI, like that was nuts. I feel like the conversation already started there because it's like his Camille games were completely like out of this world in my opinion, and I think that in general, I think in LPL he just looked untouchable. Like in it, like for example in summer playoffs, Breathe was starting to cook. Like he was starting to look better and better, and then when he faced up against Bin, it just seemed like he was up against the wall. It was just a better version of him in many ways. I think Bin's body of work this year was simply just incredible. And I think that even in this finals, he had a lot of fucking clutch moments. Like his Nar, like how he deflected the dive, how he reversed the play in game 4. Like sure, I think his Rumble games are uninteresting, and that upset me, watching that real time that he's playing Rumble. Like I don't mind it into the Jax because it's an answer and a counter, but I did feel like that stripped him of responsibility in some spots. For example, there was a game where I remember the enemy blind picked Nar, and I was hoping that he would just play Camille and he would bring that to the table. But I do think like him picking Rumble.
But he won those games.
The only thing.
He did well in the Rumble games, So like
Yeah,
for
the
me,
Rumble
it's
into
like,
Jax was really, really good for sure. Yeah.
and in game 1 he did his job as well, and I feel like that was what I like to see out of Bin this year. Is before it used to be kind of like only the counter picks, and then he developed to be like out post MSI last year. It feels like he developed being able to not require draft resource as well. And even like when he's getting Jax, like he's getting the most cancerous Jax games of all time. He is getting the complete cancer Jax games where you are playing Jax versus fucking Poppy, Gragas. Like you have a Galio on the enemy fucking team. The AD
Xayah.
carry is a Xayah. Like you are playing the most cancerous Jax game possible, and you're still able to like perform in these games. And you saw what it looks like when other guys are playing these types of Jax games. They're like, "Well, my champion just fucking sucks here." That's the conclusion you come to when somebody else plays Jax. Is you're like, "Oh, that was just a horrible Jax game. Like, how is he supposed to play Jax in that game?" Whereas like when Bin plays it, it's just somehow he'll just find the angle. I mean, he had two crazy fucking Jax fights that we saw. In this world championship, his Camille at MSI was crazy as well. It just feels like he was like, to me, the most consistently impressive player over the course of the entire year. Every time I watch this guy play, I was like, this guy is different.
I just I don't, kind of like how you feel like you're making the argument against for like the, what was the point, the hot take point made for
Yeah.
like the T1 having the worst year ever. I kind of feel like that with Chovy. It's just, he was redefining what being a superstar mid laner was in spring and over at MSI and coming through clutch, and he was beating the GOAT like consistently over throughout the year, and to the point where it was like it wasn't even fun to watch T1 versus Gen G anymore because of how dominant that team was and how dominant Chovy was against Faker. Like that was the big one. So I hear you, and I think we've already kind of touched the point on how did you look in the loss, and Bin did almost everything that he could in impossible games, whereas Chovy wasn't able to get over the hump and carry the bot lane that was struggling as well, right? Did he struggle? Not struggle, but he didn't, have this Herculean effort that, we had come to see and know throughout the year.
Well, I think it really, if we had seen Chovy like go down absolutely swinging at Worlds, this might be a different story, but that's not what like I think it's very
It went down fighting. He went down fighting.
Ben went down fighting, man.
That's what you love to see. That's why I feel like he was so destroyed. It's like, I mean, for Bin, like, what do you even take away from this year? Just do it again, and maybe next time you win.
I mean, the counter argument would be like some NFL MVP vote where you say that mid lane position just matters more, which is true.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like quarterback?
Yeah, like quarterback. Yeah,
I got it.
So something to add as well is, I think in terms of both of these players' regional play, like I mentioned it before, I think like LPL top lane is fucking nutty. Like the same thing for LCK mid laners. It's like the competition that they have to consistently face, and then to through and through be considered the best in their position the entire year in regional play is like insanely fucking impressive. Like we mentioned BDD, we mentioned BDD as like Zeka was performing good, like Faker, Showmaker had like good moments, a lot of bad moments too in the AD meta, but I do think that like regional play is also so crucial, and in the end it's like been like I think it's fair to say that Zeka outperformed Chovy in the final in the finals, right? Because I think he just had better read on what to play as the series progressed, right, with the Yone and the Tristana. But I feel like Bin was like untouchable the entire year in LPL, which I think matters too.
Okay, so Bin, Chovy. Who else do we throw up there who had
Knight has to be third.
Knight
has to be third, yeah.
Okay. Bin, Chovy, Knight.
4, I'd probably put 4 as like Canyon or Keen, somebody like this.
Yeah.
I'd probably say, ooh, that's tough. I'd probably say Canyon. Yeah, Canyon.
I don't know. I thought Keen was really good. Like, a lot of the times when I thought Keen was like, where I was like, oh shit, like is Keen gonna show up? And I thought that he would, like, I would really watch him, and I felt like Keen was like really performing a lot of the times when his back was against the wall. Like there was a lot of opportunities for him to choke and just go down with the team. And I feel like
I like this. Usually I'm the Keen cheerleader, so I'm appreciating this.
Yeah,
the Keen.
I'm also Keen enjoyer. Like, especially because of, like, also in LCK play, there were a lot of games where Gen G were, like, losing, and Keen said no. Like,
if we're
I like-
weighting Worlds higher as well, I mean, Keen was the best performing Gen G player at Worlds too.
Yeah. But I do
mean-
like throwing Keen and Canyon up there, honestly.
Yep,
I
I'll put
think it
both
makes
of them
sense. Yeah.
Put both
I
of
think
them.
that should needs to be for 5, yeah.
That's crazy. We have player of the year, and none of it comes from the world championship team. But
Look,
as we normally do,
It
we
would
are
have happened in
weighing the whole thing.
2022 as well. T1's just the new DRX. All right. We wouldn't have put any of the DRX players there either.
Well, no, I mean LCK did say that Zika was the player of the year afterwards. He was the LCK player of the year in 2022. So you got to remember that. I just try to keep these things with me, you know.
I can't. That's that award
Angie All Pro
ceremony.
first team. You know, I keep all this stuff close to the chest.
I can't wait to go to it. I can't wait to go to it and watch it happen live. It's a actual award ceremony, so we'll see. All right, so we have Bin Chovy Knight, Keen Canyon. Sorry, T1 fans, I don't.
Just judging and BLG player. It's
Sorry,
fair, though,
Peanut.
because
Sorry,
they were actually the best teams for 90% of this year.
Yeah, they were.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, cool. Boom. Done. All right, here we go. Last one. This one is for you fans. Just because Monty is, not all evil. This is the Faker of the Year award going to who else? The one that brings us all here. The mountain, where the mountains and the river collide in the sky. He is inevitable. I think about this year, man. This is the same year that they came out and inducted him in the Hall of Fame. He had his own skin line. He inevitably, every shot at Worlds, there's always him doing the little wrist thing, right? Now it's like a new thing that he has to do in the lore of the next, Fast and Furious T1 movie cinematic universe. It's this. Who knows what the next thing's going to be? But
Wait.
Faker again shows up again. And
What are the metrics for the Faker of the Year award? What are the metrics?
just being Faker. This is for the T1 fans. So to be Faker, I'll tell you, Yamato, it has to not matter anytime else except for Worlds, even though Faker has won like 10 or 12 or however many it is LCK seasons, right? So it has to matter. Nothing but Worlds matters. He's the GOAT. No one can ever argue that. And also, he's the most clutch player of all time, which is why he's the GOAT.
Well, you said you do this for the T1 fans, but this is just to aggravate them.
That's what they say.
I was, I thought I'm playing along. I thought it's like the reverse Dade award, like someone that had a massive glow up at Worlds and did a crazy tournament.
No.
Iria deserves the Faker of the Year award.
To be the Faker of the Year, you just have to be Faker because he's all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit,
that makes sense.
It's not a reverse Dade award. It's just being Faker.
Nice.
I would say
the most powerful buff is just being Faker, Yamato. It doesn't matter what he actually does because the only narrative that matters. Do not talk about the fact that he didn't win in 2022. Do not talk about the massive gap in time between his two dynasties. You can't talk about any of this. Do not talk about
it was
the
one
fact that-
dynasty.
It was only one dynasty. We forget the other years, the LPL years.
It was leap years.
Do not talk about the fact that he only won one domestic title with his current roster. Do not do that. And 0 MSIs.
Oh shit! I thought we were starting something cool, but it's just a prank. Because I was ready. I was like, I think Korea deserves Faker of the Year award.
If we were gonna do like the player who is bad, but then like glowed up the most at Worlds, it'd probably be like Zeka, right? Wouldn't that be the Zeka award?
I guess, yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Award, yeah. Boom, and then we'll go back to Glazing Faker to close the show. Let's make up the Zeka award. We're doing the Zeka award right now. Who are our candidates for the Zeka award for 2024?
Carrier and Faker.
Yes, so. Korea is my tournament MVP, man. So I thought he played insane. Really, really good. That's where I'm at.
Masu. Who else?
Masu was playing well in summer though, so I don't think that's fair.
Sorry, it was Busio. That's what I meant. Busio
was doing all right. He was getting better. I think that, but it has to be like the disparate performance between like summer and worlds in a good way, the glow up way.
It's just T1, right?
It's just T1, right?
It's just T1.
The miracle of
had to blow up.
T1.
Yeah,
I guess
because
it's like
I just keep
people
thinking
down
of
on
guys that went
Weibo,
the
right?
other way.
People were
Yeah.
really down on Weibo because they lost against LNG after their playoff run, right? Like people didn't expect shit from Weibo because
That's
people
true.
don't watch LPL. I
no
was
one watches
pretty high.
Breathe's not bad.
Breathe is not bad. Yeah, breathe is good. Yeah. Breathe is
I don't
good,
think
yeah.
I don't think we can get 5 for this one.
There
Everything
should
is
not be 5 for this one, by the way.
okay. Yeah, like everything is just a
5
Dade award.
5 figures for the Faker of the Year.
Okay,
Shout out to
we'll
Jakob.
give the Zeka award to Carria. Special shout out to Breathe and Busio
Faker.
and Faker.
Faker.
And then Faker wins the Faker award. Boom.
I just had to put an award in here so T1 would win something because I knew that they were not going to win anything else, right?
Yeah, it
I mean,
was.
could have just choose to be dishonest.
No.
I mean, I feel like that is like kind of a good play, bro. You just choose to be dishonest, and then you just pander to the fans.
We did this already. We did this already in our first quad box episode. Lying's the meta. No.
Yep.
We're not doing that. We didn't lie
lying.
in these awards.
Lying is really good.
No, it's not really good. Don't listen to Dom on this one.
Lying is pretty good, bro. Who knows?
That's how people are trying to win elections, Parma. So maybe
Yeah,
it's just
I mean,
it's like
I wasn't gonna be the one that's
been
gonna
the
say it.
politics meta for the entire human race. So that's not new.
it's just a TikTok politic meta.
All
Dominate the news cycle, no matter what.
Y'all, it has been a pleasure to bring you the global League of Legends action that has happened throughout the year. All the different storylines, all the different leagues wouldn't be possible without my co-hosts grinding out hours, killing their sleep schedules. So thank you guys so much for all the effort and work that you did. Thank you that you became available to join us on the show here, Yamato. Shout outs to Casey. Boop, 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 boop. Thank you so much for fucking that one up. Your loss, our gain. We've been doing this for years here. Dom and Monty and Light and Andrew and everyone here at Last Free Nation. So all of you fans that have stuck with us through this 3-ish hour episode and all the hours that we put in throughout the year and years, it's been a lot of fun. Any final words before we close on out our last show here, Monty?
It's been great. Summoning Insight will keep going through the off season. So if you guys need to talk about roster stuff, we'll still be doing it on that show. So we're not, and Sacktown will still be going, right, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes,
There you
sir. Off season is going to be rounding off, and as they sign the new contracts, that's where all the old stories will come out. So
That's the beautiful time.
It's like the matador. We are going to be taming the bull that is coming out, which is the drama of the previous year. So we're just waiting for those doors to be unlocked.
Yep.
Dom?
I just want to say Faker is the GOAT. The conversation is over. I'm done debating with these guys that say that Faker is not the GOAT. So I am just putting my foot down. Faker is the GOAT forever.
Dom has
He is
accepted Faker into his heart. He is his Lord and Savior. Do not persecute Dom anymore for his heretical
persecute
acts.
Monty. Persecute Monty. He hates Faker. The thing about Monty is that he just hates Faker as a person. So
That's really
right.
weird.
Dude, I love people telling me still that I'm an LPL enthusiast. I'm like, how new are you?
Yeah. KFE. The KFE is a term that Monty came up with. If you don't know, well, there's years of content that have that acronym in there. Y'all, thank you so much for watching. It has been a great season. And please enjoy all the content here that we have for you at Last Free Nation. And until then, we'll see you next year. See ya.